This is the President of the Senate.
Wow. Nice of him to join us.
Good afternoon.
All the problems are solved, don't worry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Thursday, March 5th. You are welcome to the Finance Committee. We have, I think, 14 bills and 95 witnesses. So we have a rule. The person presenting, especially when it's the President of the Senate, gets as much time as the presenter needs. Everybody else gets 2 minutes. I ask you to respect that for the people coming behind you. We've been here at almost 7 the last 2 nights, so please stick to your 2 minutes. And I'm happy to welcome Senator Ferguson, Senate Bill 770, Economic Development, Maryland's Future Board, the establishment. Senator, you have a panel.
Yes,
Brooke
please.
Learman, Mark Anthony Thomas, Jonathan Dworkin, and Ricardo Johnson, if you all come to the table. Thank you very much. Mr. President, you can start when you're ready.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee, to the birthday gentleman. Very happy birthday. I apologize for being a little bit late. It is one of those busy days in the middle 20 to 70 days, as you all know all too well. I am so pleased to be here, though, to talk about Senate Bill 770, the Maryland Future Fund. This really all started with a question. We know we have economic challenges moving forward. And when we ask ourselves, if we look at all of the industries in Maryland, what do we have to invest in specifically in order to meet the objectives and revenue goals that we need as a state? And as you ask that question, the specifics are often unknown. We know we have incredible assets in our hospital sector, in our transportation and logistics, in agriculture, in the Chesapeake Bay. We have incredible institutions with our hospitals and our universities and our colleges. And yet, a clear vision for what we need to invest in a changing world is less certain. That is fundamentally what this future fund is about. It is replicated off of several other states that have similar but not exactly the same models, from Pennsylvania to in LA and Pittsburgh, where those folks are looking at their industries and saying, what do we have to invest in? How do we have to invest in our people, in our spaces, in order to build the economy that we want? Now, a great example of this is the aerospace industry, which I believe you'll hear from today. For years and years and years, Maryland has benefited from incredible growth in aerospace. We have about 170,000 jobs, which is actually more than I even realized. 170,000 Maryland jobs are directly tied to the aerospace industry. And as actually the senator from the 22nd knows all too well, what we have seen is a radical shift in the way that the aerospace industry works. Traditionally, we've relied on federal investments, from Goddard to NASA to defense industry. What we are seeing happen in the aerospace industry is a shift from public investment to private companies. We have Wallops Island. We have all of these incredible assets, the wealth of knowledge, the talented workforce, and yet we have a marketplace that is radically shifting. What we need to do is not look at the next year or 2 years, but what are we going to do for the next 5 to 10 years as the economy changes, as AI becomes more immediate, as automation becomes more of a part of our everyday processes, as ag tech becomes something that we have to radically think about the impact on family farms. So the purpose of this bill is to provide the venue, space, and opportunity to really invest purposefully and strategically in Maryland's long-term future. You'll hear from panel experts today who I'm so thankful are joining, including our comptroller. You will see an amendment in the bill that actually asks for a specific report, and I am very pleased that the comptroller has agreed to take the lead on this economic forecasting report for Maryland, given the great work that she has done and her office has done to look at Maryland's current state of the economy. What does it look like to take it to the next level for the future? With that, Madam Chair, I'd urge a favorable report on the bill as amended.
Thank you. Madam Comptroller, would you like to go next?
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here, and I think this may be the last time that I'm here with you as Madam Chair, so I just wanted to say thank you for everything. I'm Brooke Learman, Comptroller of Maryland, for the record, here in support of SB 770, and I've had the honor of coming to this committee on a number of bills, but today I'm here to talk about one of my core priorities as Maryland's Comptroller to help ensure Maryland is well positioned for responsible long-term economic growth and success. This board is essential to doing that. And I thank the Senate President for bringing it. It's easy to talk about creating long-term growth, but it's a lot harder to do, especially when every day we have a new crisis, a new hurdle, something that we have to solve often within 90 days. Truly creating long-term growth requires a dedicated body that can develop and execute a forward-thinking strategy to strengthen our economy and move the state forward. Maryland's Future Board can do just that, planning for the future so that our economy continues to grow and benefits all Marylanders, even in times of uncertainty. As a standing board, it can enable collaboration across agencies and branches of government as it studies the long-term future budget and revenue needs of the state. You do have amendments, as the Senate President said, that direct my office to study economic growth trends, help identify industries where Maryland has a competitive advantage, and examine social and economic factors such as migration trends and job replacement due to the rise in artificial intelligence. This research, I believe, will aid Maryland's Future Board in exploring new ways to create competitive advantages and encourage sustainable growth in Maryland. I think it's essential that we have a body tasked with thinking beyond the constraints of individual legislative sessions and current revenue projections. And I believe that we can create a state that's more equitable, more resilient, and more prosperous by having a board like this. So I urge a favorable report on SB 770. Thank you.
Time to spare.
Time to spare. I could have lauded Madam Chair for longer.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jonathan Dworkin, and I serve as Executive Director of the New Deal Forum. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of SB 770. Thank you to the Senate President. The New Deal Forum is a national organization that works with elected officials and thought leaders to develop and promote innovative state and local policy solutions that expand opportunity and make government work better. We believe great leadership means understanding the ways the world is changing, having a plan for how to empower people amid this change, and having the ability to implement that plan. The forces shaping our future, technological disruption, demographic change, and global competition demand leadership that steps back from day-to-day issues to focus on intentional, forward-looking planning. Yet we see how often state policymaking is driven by the urgency of the moment, an immediate crisis, the next budget cycle, or the next election. That pattern stifles progress. Just like technological innovation requires an environment where people can take risks on new ideas, government must create a space for smart people to think outside the box, to invest in the opportunities of the future. Just consider the rapid advances of AI that were not on the legislative agenda a few years ago. That's why SB 770 is important. It creates a structure to think beyond the short term and taps into diverse perspectives outside of government to identify emerging trends and position Maryland to lead. There's a famous quote by hockey great Wayne Gretzky, "Skate where the puck is going, not where it has been." In the same way, the Maryland's Future Board would look forward and focus on empowering Marylanders to take advantage of what the future will bring. States that succeed don't just respond to change, they shape it. SB 770 gives Maryland a tool to do exactly that. It's time to move where the puck will be. Thank you so much.
Great. Good afternoon. I'm Mark Anthony Thomas. I serve as the CEO of the Greater Baltimore Committee, which represents hundreds of businesses, institutions, and philanthropy to strengthen our regional and state's economy. I also serve on the board of directors for the International Economic Development Council, alongside CEOs who represent the large share of the United States economic growth. I'm here today to support Senate Bill 770. We're entering a period of profound economic disruption, one that has no precedents. Supply chains are being rebuilt. Production is returning closer to home. Entire sectors are being reshaped by technology at a pace that few states have prepared for. The question before us is simple. Will Maryland organize itself to meet this moment? Today, our outcomes do not fully reflect our economic potential. Our venture capital numbers lag where they should be. Our growth does not match the depth of our talent pool or the diversity of our people who live and work in our state. The challenge is not imagination, it's alignment. And this bill creates a mechanism to bring that alignment into focus. It creates a space for leaders from business, academia, startups, government, and the civic sector to step back and think clearly about what our future economy can be, and Maryland can lead in this thinking. It allows for us to ask how state, local, and federal policy can work in sync to support the industries that will define the next generation of growth for our state. In short, it gives Maryland a chance to think ahead, not just react to this disruption, but prepare for it. Not just respond to change, but shape how our state will thrive within it. This kind of forward thinking is not optional in today's economy, but it's essential. And so thanks for your leadership, and I respectfully urge support for this report.
Thank you. Ricardo?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Finance Committee. I'd like to point out that my colleagues saved a bunch of time that I should be able to pool. But I'm Ricardo Johnson, Executive Vice President and Chief Growth Officer for CareFirst Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I'm here today in support of Senate Bill 770, establishing Maryland's Future Board. Let me begin by thanking Senate President Ferguson for his leadership in bringing this forward. This is the kind of forward thinking and disciplined thinking that positions Maryland not just to respond to change, but to shape it. Senate Bill 770 will help develop, evaluate, revise a visionary plan for the future of Maryland and make recommendations for projects based on that plan to the governor and the General Assembly. The bill also establishes the Future Fund to assist the state in meeting the goals of the board. CareFirst has been a Maryland headquartered company for nearly 90 years now, and we operate at the intersection of health, economics, and community well-being. And from that vantage point, one thing is very clear to us, that economic vitality and health outcomes are deeply intertwined. You cannot have a thriving economy without a healthy population, and you cannot sustain health without economic opportunity. What this bill does, and I believe does well, is create the conditions for Maryland to think differently about our future. In my own work at CareFirst, I've seen the power of bringing together deep institutional expertise with outside, unconstrained thinking and leveraging that for the benefit of Maryland residents. Our teams understand economics, they understand healthcare systems, what's been tried, what's failed, where the friction points are. But when you pair that with entrepreneurs, community leaders, and innovators, we begin to unlock solutions that aren't limited by how things have always been done. This board is designed to do exactly that for the state. The Maryland Future Board is an opportunity to bring creative vision forward, thinking ideas to the forefront of how all share in Maryland's next chapter. And I urge I urge a favorable report from this committee.
Thank you, Ricardo. I see a question from Senator Reedy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm certainly very supportive of the idea of a board focused on our future economically. The whereas clauses in this bill courageously tell the story that we are lagging behind in some key areas. I just wonder, as we look at being forward-looking, I'm curious if for comments from the group or about, for example, we're losing population. Our population growth is 1.4% compared to national average. Are we going to look at what states that we're losing population to are doing as part of why we're struggling economically? We talk about looking at the future, but don't we need to also look and see what we're doing that we maybe ought to change? And I'm asking that to the group, but
Sure, I would say.
I think it's a fair question, yeah.
Certainly, and I would say, I think that the comptroller's report really laid out a number of these features, several reports on immigration trends and on the current state of the economy in Maryland. Ultimately, at the end of the day, the data is the data. We do have a lot of spaces where we are looking at what are our immediate economic opportunities. I think the objective here is to really say we are seeing radical change in ways that nobody could have anticipated. And so we have to get ahead of the curve. We have to deal with the immediate. We cannot continue to lose population. We cannot continue to lag behind economic growth. We can't continue to rely as much as we have on the federal government, given the circumstances of where we are. That means we have to have a plan for what's next. And so that's ultimately what we're trying to get at. This is not the solve all, but it is a how do we project forward and make the right investments to be able to win in areas where we have a competitive advantage.
And my last question, and thank you, Madam Chair, would be, there was on transportation, there was a years-long train commission that was meeting, having extensive meetings. One of our colleagues was sitting on it, Senator Hershey. And then all of a sudden, we just decided to double registration fees and kind of train commission went away. And so how do we make sure that something like this gets established? Of course, I think the support of the Senate President is helpful in making sure it stays in the forefront, but how can we be sure that, you know, we get recommendations and it can really fulfill its work and will implement its recommendations?
Certainly. Well, look, I would say on the transportation sector in particular, this is where the public sector is going to have a big shift with infrastructure. As we look at autonomous vehicles and fleets of autonomous vehicles that potentially have major impacts, it radically changes what we need for parking spaces, for parking garages, for how roads and bridges function, what types of cars are on our road. These are very real questions that at times can feel like the Jetsons, but in reality are within the next 5 to 10 years of being actual realities for most states in this country. And so this is the space in which to evaluate. Transportation, the Train Commission was really focused on the nuts and bolts of how do we fund transportation for the long term. I think one of the places where we had gaps was what is technology going to do to change the way that people, goods, and services move? And that's what we would want this entity to be focused on, is looking towards the next iteration, the next version of how we are making the right investments for our economy to be more efficient with the infrastructure that we invest in.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Senator Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. President and panel. I think it's a great bill. It fills a void that doesn't currently exist in state government. But I'm curious, is there any projects that we could think of where, had it been absent this opportunity, would have probably been good for Maryland that we might not have had a chance to realize? I'm trying to put a fine tune on like what types of projects might apply in this case.
I mean, if there's anyone in the panel who wants to add as well, the one thing I would say is something that there are examples where we have done bits and pieces of this. I think there are places in ag tech and things like quantum that are emerging areas that have helped. We have blossoming opportunity, but we don't have kind of the investment in a specific plan for how we are going to engage. I see that.
Yeah, I wanted to weigh in. So the way commerce currently is structured, it's really designed in a way to administer grants, incentives, key programs that are about growth. What this does is it really builds a thought leadership role around what our overarching economy needs to be. What do we need to do, say, to be competitive in the industries that we think will see jobs, but it is like a 5-10 year horizon to get there. What you see happening as far as investment in advanced manufacturing, whether it's shipbuilding or chips-related innovation in other states, is happening because they put this kind of structure in place years ago, and they're seeing the impact of that. We're not competitive for really I would say the large capital products now because we're not positioned to compete as aggressive as other markets.
I'll just also add, I think that, reports like the State of the Economy report that we did in January 2024, reports like that haven't existed in our state before. And I think and there's no guarantee that they will in the future but for sort of a board like this to make sure that we're continuing to think about where we are right now versus where we need to be, and sometimes doing that in a comparative way with our peers. So I think that making sure that there is a body that's continuing to think about what the future looks like and understanding where our economy is now and where it needs to be 5 or 10 years from now to take advantage of all the opportunities presented will add continuity to the work that we're doing and make sure that we don't have that void.
Thank you. The other part is, the more I experience economic development, I more appreciate when we have to have exemptions to state procurement law. And there's some exemptions here, but I'm always also conscious of the environment in which we're in, where we're looking at, the threat to MBE, WBEs, and the participation of communities of color. It's not evident what exemptions are asked for in state procurement law here, but I'm curious if those things might be preserved here.
I would say this was probably replicated off of drafting from template language for boards within agencies, and so I'm certainly open to the committee's, defer to the committee's expertise here in the specifics.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Mounts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Conceptually, I'm trying to understand, how this works. So this board is going to propose a visionary plan.
The idea is that you will bring together the right group of folks that will put forward a plan. It will also have in alignment projects that are particularly aligned with the strategic plan, things like aerospace, things like ag tech, things where we're seeing emerging possibilities, and this board would be in charge of making those decisions of where those funds would be allocated. Should the plan be worthwhile and there be continuous appropriation towards initiatives?
And I always try to be frank about things because, especially talking hypothetical, but specifically for our rural district on the shore, the heart of the Eastern Shore, someone would ask me, Senator Mounts, how is this board going to impact or help the future of agriculture and commercial fishing? How would you respond to that in your work in preparing this and your vision and thoughts about how this board would act? Would they even, would this vision just include like the governor's 3.4 point plan on the economic future of Maryland, or how do you know what is going to be included?
I think that's a piece of it. One of the things that I would jump in, and I'll defer to the board as well, is that we are seeing examples across the globe, but also in the country, of where AI is impacting commercial fisheries in pretty dramatic ways, where large data sets are being evaluated, and you are seeing significant overfishing that is depleting old fisheries because of the expertise of large data sets that are targeting where fisheries are going to be most productive. And therefore, that's great for a single year, but if you're depleting it forever, as you well know, there are huge long-term consequences. I think as AI becomes more a part of everyday commercial fishing and operations, these are big questions as to how Maryland is going to handle and also benefit from new technology along the way. So I think there are enormous questions that have to be focused specifically on Maryland's economy, not just sort of a think tank in DC that's kind of having abstract thoughts, but in Maryland, how are these changes in our economy going to have a specific impact?
Can I give one example? It's not exact. I don't think it's your just. So in Salisbury, right, many years ago, economic development director sort of had the foresight to think about, wow, we should work with UMES to develop a training center for airplane technicians, and we should bring in, and then they were able to secure an airplane, and so they had this really robust, amazing airplane training program now. They'll be able to grow their airport, but that program is an exception, I think, not the rule. You had an exceptional economic development professional there who was really thinking about the 5 to 10 year forecast and what it would mean. I think a body like this can work with economic development professionals around the state to help make sure that we're capturing those possibilities and potential, and that the state is then investing in that. Okay. And so I think it's pretty exciting. And even that example, like, there's more growth to happen there. And so then the question is, how does the state make sure that we're helping Salisbury, UMES, realize the full potential of that program?
Well, I'm sure President Anderson is watching very closely from the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. We want to give her a shout out because we are very proud of that program and its impact. So thank you. Mm-hmm.
And Senator, I was just going to add, I think it's an important question because I think one of the things that the board has to do is not just to think about what are the additional industries that Maryland should be in and invest in, but what is core to us right now that we risk losing if we don't have a strategy that is focused and aligned and making sure that it stays cutting edge. I think about that when I think about the Bay and fisheries. I think about that when I think about medtech and the resources that we have, and an economy and an industry that has been built in Maryland, but that is changing rapidly, and Maryland has to make sure that the assets are in place in Maryland to make sure that we keep those industries strong and then grow them as they move into the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, I have a couple of questions. It looks like maybe only 7 members, 3 from the governor, 2 appointed by you, and 2 appointed by the speaker. But you have this long list of the background you want: entrepreneurs, members of academia, ethicists, artists, philanthropists, leaders in labor, business, and higher education. Is the board going to expand beyond those 7?
You know, it's a great question. This is something that I think we all always struggle with whenever there is a board or a commission of once you start to add one, you add 17. And so, you know, the goal here was to give a non-exhaustive list. I think it is very difficult to have incredibly productive boards when you get beyond 11, 15, 17, 21 people. And it's hard to keep the level of investment and engagement that's needed. So we did intentionally make it as a smaller board, not because there aren't very worthy individuals, but I think keeping boards small is an important value, and they can always have advisory committees and focus sector areas.
That would be what these other groups could be as an advisory committee.
Potentially. And we didn't want to be prescriptive, but doesn't mean that we wouldn't have the opportunity to name them, name representatives as those members.
Thank you, Mr. President. Do I have any other questions? I don't see any. Thank you to this panel.
Thank you.
And Mr. President, you can stay up.
I will.
And we're going to do Senate Bill 772, Vincent DeMarco from the Maryland Healthcare for All, and Madeline Martinez. There's your panel.
Excellent. Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I am now pleased to present Senate Bill 772, which unfortunately is not the far future, but is trying to deal with the problems of the very, very, very near future, the future that we're going to see in the next year. What we know is that because of changes at the federal level, because of the budget bill that was passed on July 4th, 2025, the cuts that are being made to Medicaid enrollment and the work requirements and new qualifications and eligibility is going to have a significantly negative impact on Marylanders who currently qualify for Medicaid. While certainly it was done as a budget reducing initiative, what we know to be the case, and we have seen time in and time again, is this committee has done incredibly well over many years. While it might be a short-term cost savings on the side of or on the public sector side when somebody is off of health insurance, we actually know that it leads to significantly greater costs in the long run. Because what happens? People delay care. They come to the hospital and the emergency room, which is the most expensive place for primary care or the provision of any type of care. And we have worse health outcomes because they've delayed seeing a doctor until things are more severe. We know that to be the case. It's why it has been, for many, many, many years, a bipartisan approach to try to expand access to affordable health care coverage. With these changes in qualifications and the new work requirements that are being applied to, quote, able-bodied individuals, Maryland is projected to have 130,000 individuals who are potentially losing their Medicaid coverage. One of the qualifications is around access to work and to providing work opportunities for those who are eligible and will now have work requirements. This is not a solve-all. This is a tool in the toolbox, and what we are trying to ask the state agencies to do, along with private partners, something that I know the Vice Chair has worked on in his other capacity with workforce development initiatives, is to create a unified, comprehensive database of workforce opportunities and experiences, including apprenticeships and anything that would qualify to fulfill a work requirement, so that those individuals who now previously were not required to have work requirements will have a go-to one-stop shop database of opportunities that's updated on an every 30-day basis in order to make sure that we make it as easy as possible to keep these folks on our Medicaid rolls so that they have health care coverage for them and their families. That's really the long scope of the bill, and I urge the committee to provide a favorable report. I see some very confused looks. Did we pick the wrong bill?
Should we go into your
Please,
panel?
please, yes.
Okay. Mr. DeMarco?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Vinnie DeMarco, President of Maryland Healthcare for All Coalition. And thank you, President Ferguson, for putting in this important bill. Thanks to this committee and the Senate leadership and the House leadership and our wonderful governor of Maryland has made tremendous progress reducing the uninsured rate from 13% to 6%. That's 400,000 people gotten health care. And as the president said, we all benefit from that. We did a study showing that reduction in the uninsured reduced uncompensated hospital care by over $460 million. over $460 million saved in uncompensated hospital care because we reduced the uninsured rate from 13% to 6%. Sadly, H.R. 1 would take us backwards, and as the president so eloquently said, take people off the rolls. We can't let that happen. Those folks would suffer, and we would all suffer. As former Speaker Mike Bush said, it's a hidden health care tax we all pay when people are uninsured. Therefore, we at the Maryland Healthcare for All Coalition strongly support the president's bill here, which would put us, which would stop some of this from happening and get people the information they need to stay insured. We thank the Maryland Health Department and the Maryland Health Exchange for all they're doing to make sure that people who are eligible stay insured. That is great, and there will be people who will need the information that's in this bill to stay insured, and we want them to have it, so we strongly urge passage of this bill, and thank you again, President Ferguson, for your leadership.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madeline Martinez. I'm the Assistant Director of Advocacy for Catholic Charities of Baltimore, and I'm here to show our support for Senate Bill 772. One of the greatest barriers that we see our clients face are completing programs because of fragmentation. When individuals are asked to navigate multiple systems to access the services they need, many of them disengage before they ever finish. That is why holistic support is at the heart of everything we do at Catholic Charities. We infuse case management and supported services directly into our workforce development programs, so our clients don't have to navigate a maze just to access the services they need in order to complete our programs. Through our Christopher Place Employment Academy, our Daily Bread Employment Center, St. Edward's Workforce Development Center, we have seen this model work. In the last year, we have been able to serve 600 individuals through our workforce development program. 312 of those secure employment, and 82 earn industry recognized certifications, and we're not slowing down. This year, we are opening our Fugit Intergenerational Center in District 40. In partnership with Requity, we're going to expand our workforce development services to serve 100 additional individuals. This building, in addition to this program, would house 9 Head Start programs. It would also have a behavioral health clinic, all in one roof. The goal is to have everything in one place so people can get the services they need and complete our workforce development programs. That is why we support this bill. We know that SNAP and Medicaid requirements are in the horizon. We want to make sure we are ready so that we can create a centralized, and this bill will create a centralized database that doesn't just list opportunities, it connects people, and it also allows them to enroll. For these reasons, we urge the committee to support SB 772. Thank you.
Thank you. Madeline, thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Senator Guile.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. President, for this bill. So just so I understand it, there would be a database. MDH is going to compile a database. Is it publicly available? Going to be publicly available then on the page, or is this something that people that are receiving benefits can only access, through some sort of login?
The goal is to be public, and it'll be readily accessible and widely promoted amongst agencies and amongst the public.
Okay. And then when I see MDH is supposed to assist individuals with it, so what kind of assistance are they contemplating? Are they going to provide, like, job counseling or help with applying to the?
I think it's more about referring them to that. I think this is where the biggest challenge is going to be, is that there is not necessarily the case management capacity within MDH to do a one-on-one. I think a lot of our wonderful providers like Catholic Charities, amongst many others, have case managers, but people have to get to those spaces first. And so I think it's going to be likely impossible for MDH to have the full resources to do that level of case management to make sure that every single person is kept on the rolls. This is one small step to kind of reduce the administrative burden of finding resources for people that it will apply to most.
Yeah. And just one more question, Madam Chair. So then, but this is as I read the bill, so this is not just state government opportunities. These are opportunities that would be compiled from the private sector as well.
That's the
correct?
hope.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Reedy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Definitely think it's great to do this. I guess I'm wondering, I was ignorant that we weren't already referring people that applied for workforce, because the change in HR 1 was that now if you're able-bodied, we're not going to keep doing this unless you're applying for work, looking for work, full-time student, some other qualifiers. So was this not this? I'm ignorant to the fact that this wasn't already something we would have been doing anyway.
There are current referrals, and I think that the vice chair knows quite well of those who, we have a lot of agencies that do make referrals. The goal is to provide it in a more unified place amongst all the different agencies, just as we're doing with the, I can't think of the name of the platform that DHS is using. Not One Maryland. Think, yeah, Maryland Think, MD Think. That we're trying to unify kind of eligibility overall and combine all these different work streams from different agencies. This is a similar effort, but for workforce opportunities that would be available for reference, that would make folks eligible to continue on Medicaid SNAP.
Okay.
Or to access Medicaid SNAP.
Okay. Because, yeah, I mean, hopefully then.
They are making referrals. This is to make it a little bit more efficient in one stop shop.
Because much like we don't like uncompensated care at the hospital, we also would like to get people working so they don't have to be, on to get some off the roll. We want people off the Medicaid rolls eventually because we want them to be out and not needing it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I don't see any other questions.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you,
just
Mr.
as a note, and totally unrelated, these two bills, 6:30, Echelon will be here, their James Beard restaurant nominee, so down at in the first row. In the case that you are still here after 6, we're going to have wonderful Echelon food. So
We probably will
please
be,
just
Mr.
keep that in
President.
mind as you contemplate these two bills.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you all.
I'll be here alone, they'll all be gone.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready? Here we go. Now we're going to have Senator Hayes, Senate Bill 820, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission, Unauthorized Consumable Products Enforcement and Seizure. So Senator Hayes, you have our First Lady Dawn Moore, Hannah Dyer, Jeff Kelly, and Tiffany Welch as your panel.
Cool.
Welcome, everyone, especially our First Lady. Thank you for being here.
Indeed. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Finance Committee. For the record, I'm Senator Antonio Hayes, representing the 40th Legislative District in Baltimore City. I'm here to present Senate Bill 820, and I'll tell you in advance, Senator Kramer, there are some words in this testimony that are chemicals that I will butcher. So don't make fun of me, all right? I'm just letting you know that up front and personal. All right, thank you. So Senate Bill 820 strengthened Maryland's ability to protect consumers from unsafe and unapproved consumable products that are currently being sold in retail environments. These products, such as Tianeptine, Phenibut, Cranton, and Phenibut, I think, that violate the regulatory standards are often marketed as supplements, but may contain psychoactive or harmful substances. This legislation provides the ATCC with clear authority to enforce existing public health protections and remove these products from our marketplace. Across Maryland and our nation, states are seeing the emergence of unregulated consumables, substances being sold in convenience stores, gas stations, and online marketplaces. These products contain unknown ingredients, inconsistent potencies, or levels that are harmful with contaminants. Kratom is a herbal substance marketed for pain relief and other effects, but it has been associated with adverse health events and is currently being monitored by health authorities. Phenibut is a psychoactive substance that has been marked as a supplement for anxiety and sleep. Without clear enforcement authority, these products can remain on store shelves even when they violate Maryland health safety standards and laws. Senate Bill 820 addresses this gap by allowing the Field Enforcement Division of the ATCC to issue citations and charging documents when violations occur. This bill authorizes the executive director of the commission to seize, confiscate, and destroy unauthorized consumable products that are offered, advertised, or displayed for sale in Maryland. Once seized, these products are presumed to be contraband unless the seller can demonstrate the product has been approved for human consumption by either the Maryland Department of Health or the USDA. This ensures enforcement decisions are tied directly to recognized health and safety standards. This bill establishes clear rules for retailers. Under Senate Bill 820, a retailer may not distribute, sell, expose, or for sale or advertise unauthorized consumable products. Violations are classified as misdemeanors and may result in fines up to $5,000. In addition, courts may order the suspension or revocation of certain business licenses, and retailers may help civilly liable for damages sustained by individuals harmed by these products. These provisions ensure accountability while supporting retailers who operate responsibly and comply with Maryland law. Senate Bill 820 also strengthened restrictions on marketing these products to minors. This bill expands prohibitions on advertising tactics that appeal to children, including marketing their uses like cartoons, mascot, neon colors, or bright misleading packages, which this committee is all too familiar with as we've contemplated legislation around cannabis and other things, or designs that mislead consumers about the nature of the product. This also prohibits advertising these products on building exteriors, billboards, and other publicly visible locations where youth may be exposed to the marketing. The bill also improves communication between state agencies. Under the legislation, Maryland Department of Health must notify the ATCC within 30 days of any changes to regulatory statutes of these substances. This ensures enforcement agencies remain aware of evolving public health guidance and can respond quickly when new product or risk emerge. Ultimately, and we're coming down the final stretch, Senate Bill 820 is about protecting Maryland consumers and ensuring transparency in products being sold for human consumption. It gives enforcement agencies the tool they need to address unsafe products while ensuring businesses operate responsibly are not placed at a disadvantage. Colleagues, I am so grateful to the First Lady and her presence here today for this very important piece of legislation as we hope to protect Marylanders, especially our young people, from these harmful substances. And with that, I ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 820.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Hayes, for inviting me to be here. It's an honor to sit with you, and it's an honor to sit before each and every member of the Finance Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of a bill that will protect the public health of all Marylanders. I want to give a very special thanks to Chair Beidel for her commitment in serving the people of Maryland through the General Assembly for 20 years. To Vice Chair Hayes for championing this bill, and the Maryland Department of Health and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission for its steadfast work on this issue. While I was unable to give testimony in person in the House hearing this week, today I sit before you to voice my support for Senate Bill 820, Unauthorized Consumable Products Enforcement and Seizure. And I do apologize for anything that is reiterative, but I do think this is a very important issue. As the First Lady, a mother of two, and a fierce advocate for the health and well-being of all Maryland children, this bill is personal for me. I know firsthand how impressionable the minds of our young people are. And I know how often companies consumed with making a profit use predatory tactics to target some of our most vulnerable populations. That's why I'm proud that we are pushing to establish strict state-level controls on psychoactive substances that we know can inflict significant harm. We all have a responsibility to protect our communities, and oftentimes it's from the very things that are hiding in plain sight. These psychoactive substances have increasingly found their way onto the shelves of places we frequent the most, from gas stations to convenience stores. And they are often marketed deceptively as dietary supplements, energy boosters, or anxiety relievers. But the FDA, CDC, and our own Department of Health have warned us otherwise. They've proven that kratom can cause liver toxicity, seizures, and the development of substance use disorders. Phenibut causes reduced levels of consciousness, and when combined with other depressants like alcohol or opioids, can result in severe respiratory depression. And tianeptine has a high potential for abuse and addiction. And when taken beyond its suggested limits, it can lead to seizures, coma, and even death. So the question is, why wouldn't we do everything in our power to regulate these products and potentially stop them from being sold in our neighborhoods? We know that our state already has guardrails in place for many of these products, but it's up to us to take it a step further. Senate Bill 820 is the clear path forward. This bill will treat these substances that are misleading our children as contraband, stopping them from being sold alongside energy drinks and candy at local convenience stores. It will set a strict 21 and over age limit for kratom and phenibut, which currently is being marketed with bright colors, as the senator said, and images of cartoons, superheroes, and video games to entice our young people. It will stop businesses from overlooking the harmful effects of these products in favor of profits, and will allow us to hold bad actors accountable by enforcing penalties of suspension or loss of business licenses. Senate Bill 820 creates the barriers we need to stop these psychoactive substances from infiltrating our communities and causing irreparable harm to the people we have committed ourselves to taking care of. That's why I support this legislation, and our administration stands behind it. We can and should lead on this issue, and I urge the committee to provide this legislation with a favorable vote. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Hannah Dyer, Deputy Legislative Officer for the Governor, and I am just joining today for questions.
Thank you. Tiffany?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tiffany Welch. I am a West Baltimore resident and community advocate and organizer. I'm here to respectfully ask for a favorable report on Senate Bill 820. I spend a lot of time walking our neighborhoods, working directly with residents, organizations, and small businesses, and I see firsthand what's happening in our blocks. For me, this bill is not about regulation. It's about public health, about public safety, and basic consumer protection. In neighborhoods across Baltimore, especially where I'm from in West Baltimore, we've seen a rapid increase of corner stores, vape shops, smoke shops. Many of them sit right along the paths where our young people walk to school every day, to recreation centers, even in the middle of our blocks. Inside these stores are products that most families have never heard of: kratom, phenibut. To an adult and to a young person, they don't look dangerous, but the realities are these are dangerous products. People do not know the compounds that they contain, how strong they are, what dosage is even inside these packaging. To me, that is not consumer choice, that's consumer confusion. When something goes wrong from ingesting these items, it doesn't just stay inside of the store. It happens in our emergency rooms, challenging the capacity of our medical providers. It's happening in our schools, challenging the capabilities of our teachers. The effects are in our communities, just disrupting the cohesion of our neighborhoods. Senate Bill 820 not only gives us tools to remove unsafe products from shelves, it holds retailers accountable. It stops products that look like candy, very alluring packaging, from being marketed to not only adults but to children. Our communities, specifically in Baltimore, have paid too high of a price when it comes to substance misuse. We should not allow dangerous, unregulated substances to quietly enter our neighborhoods disguised as supplements. For the health and safety of our families, of our young people, our future leaders, I respectfully urge a favorable report on the Senate bill. Thank you.
Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Jeff Kelly. I'm the Executive Director of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Cannabis Commission. And I'm here today, I would say, to explain why 820 is a great bill, but I don't need to do that. I think it's been done very well. So I'll jump to the not why, but the how we would go about doing it. I think we are uniquely and very well positioned to carry out the enforcement of this bill. It's not a whole lot different than the work we do with illicit THC products today. These products are found in the same kind of stores where the THC is, and quite honestly, where tobacco products and sometimes alcohol products, all of which we regulate and inspect for, are located. So this would simply be adding a couple of extra items to the list of what we already inspect for. And this committee knows our work. We're here quite frequently, and I'd like to think that we're pretty effective in how we go about our inspections and respectful of businesses, but again, impactful where we need to be. And so I would ask for a favorable report of 820. I'm more than happy to take any questions. And maybe the most important thing is, I can do this in FY27 without any additional funding than what we've already asked for. We're just simply looking for extra things in the places that we're already located. So no additional cost associated with this.
I just want to say, you all have been amazing, your inspectors. I know we had the bill earlier this year on the ESDs being sold in the tobacconist stores, and now this, you just can look for everything at one time when you go in these stores. But thank you so much for your work.
And thank you. I'm about the luckiest person really in the state. I've mentioned that many times.
Yeah,
I have a great
you're doing
team.
a great job. And
Thank you.
First Lady, thank you for your support and testimony, and to my Vice Chair for bringing the bill. So thank you very much. I'm going to call on Senator Kramer, the birthday boy, who's been very quiet today.
And I'm about to blow that all out of the water, Madam Chair. Well, first of all, to Jeff Kelly, bless your heart. We never hear anybody come in and say, oh, by the way, I can do it with my existing resources. So how refreshing to hear those words, my friend, and thank you for that. Look, I just want to turn to the bill sponsor and say thank you for this bill, but most importantly, I have never had an interest in having the governor sit next to me at a bill hearing, but I will share with you that I am incredibly envious that you have the First Lady sitting next to you at a bill hearing. I just want to know how I can make that happen. Because I am so jealous, and if I may, First Lady, if you ever get bored with the governor, I'm just putting it out there. So thank you very much. Good to see you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Governor Moore, if you're listening, that's spelled K-R-A. He's right here. The governor works out, you know. You better be careful.
He is a big man.
I love the concept, and I think we need to do something. We do have a lot of testimony, and we're going to hear testimony, and then some of us will be in and out because of other bills and things, so just for people that are here to testify on all the bills. But I wondered if I could ask Jeff, though, just on the, I guess, I don't want to call it the science of this, but there's some really good testimony from Reason and also from our friends with the dealership, you know, the Glenn McCauley and that group, about they have some concerns about how it will be implemented, but there's also some good testimony from Reason and some other groups about more of a regulatory structure rather than basically almost Schedule 2 or Schedule 1ing this kind of, which is what we're looking at with the bill. And there's a lot of folks who, I have a lot of constituents who contacted me about Kratom, particularly wanting to ban it, but I've also had constituents who say, hey, I use it for different reasons, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to tell them they should or shouldn't, but could you talk about, should we go all the way with just sort of an out-and-out blanket ban, or should we look at more of a regulatory structure around something like Kratom? I'm just to throw that out there, because that seems to be the substance of a lot of the oppositional testimony.
Sure, thanks, Senator Reedy. And I have to say, I'm not the science guy in this. No, I don't want to clarify that, but I think it is somewhat regulated. I think that's the whole point. It's regulated by Department of Health, and we take our lead from Department of Health. When they identify the problem and say, hey, can you take a look at this, then we follow the other parameters that exist about what makes a contraband or not. But I would say that it's not an outright ban of Kratom. It allows it. It just doesn't allow it to be sold to kids, It doesn't allow it to be advertised. It requires certain types of labeling. And it only bans it when it starts to turn like a synthetic drug, when the 7-OH synthetic drug is like over 2%. I know it's technical, but what I'm getting at is it's very similar to what Delta 8 is in the THC world. Delta 9 is regular cannabis, THC, and is authorized. Delta 8 is when they start to synthesize it some. That's the part that we would be dealing with this kratom or kratom, is the elements of it as it becomes synthesized.
And I think I was asking you partly too, just from the idea of the regulatory structure of whatever, maybe with the health department, if we could ask. One of the other pieces of testimony is that it's the 2% level. There's a debate that shouldn't be treated this way, that's treating 2% like it's something much more destructive than it is. I don't know if there's any comment from anybody on the panel. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to single anybody out, but I'm just curious about that. Because we're going to sort through all this, obviously. I think we want to restrict this stuff. I mean, I think it is dangerous, and people buy it unwittingly and unknowingly. So I'm definitely for that, and just trying to figure out how to parse all this out. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm happy to work with the health department to follow up to get a more specific answer to that question.
Okay.
But I'll just reiterate what Mr. Kelly said, that the legislature has passed legislation to the policy decisions the last 2 years. And so what this bill does is really just add the enforcement mechanism to that, to build on that work.
Yeah, I'll share I'll talk offline with the reason. And the reason testimony appealed to me was it's sort of implying we got to be careful not to treat this the way we used to treat marijuana, because we've legalized marijuana in the state. And I know this is different, but it's it's just interesting. So I want to see if we could work it through before we get into the actual voting on it. So thank you.
Well taken.
All right, seeing no other questions, thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair and the panelists. Madam First Lady, thank you for being here, and everyone else as well. Next, we have Sharon Barahoff, favorable. Kevin Roy, favorable. And let's also bring up Allison Smish, although she's favorable with amendments. Do we have Sharon as well, or? I don't see her. Okay, Kevin, you can go ahead and get started. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Giles and the committee members. I'm providing testimony on behalf of Shatterproof, a national nonprofit dedicated to building a world where addiction never defines or ends a life. We strongly support SB 820, which would define unauthorized consumable products, as it's just been discussed. These unregulated products are often readily available and appeal to children, as again has been discussed. And beyond the immediate short-term risks, research has linked kratom use to long-lasting cognitive behavioral deficits, and the synthetic variants are also very dangerous. The FDA has repeatedly warned that kratom and its alkaloids and related products are not approved for any medical use and do not qualify as lawful dietary supplement ingredients, and the agency has issued warnings to this effect. There's growing recognition of this problem among other states. It's classified as a controlled substance in numerous countries around the world, including Malaysia, its natural origin, as well as 7 states that have banned it, including Indiana, Louisiana, Vermont, and Wisconsin, among others. There's other items topic here, phenibut and tianeptine. Kratom has garnered a lot of the attention, but phenibut and tianeptine are also sold openly in the same way, which sort of goes to this broader policy issue of how much, do we keep letting this issue kind of grow. The heartbreaking testimony submitted, although they're not able to be here today, by Jim and Cindy Alvey of Columbia, Maryland, details the devastating impact of these products had on their son, JT. As their powerful testimony stated, these substances, often called gas station heroin, offer no medical value, are highly addictive, and should be classified as Schedule 1 or 2, as they are in other states, or banned outright. We're grateful for the Alveys' courage in sharing their story, and deeply troubled that the circumstances were possible in Maryland. In conclusion, Maryland should prioritize the health and safety of our children and communities by adding these unregulated substances to the unauthorized consumable products list, and providing the enforcement that's been discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Allison.
Great. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee, birthday boy. My name is Allison Smith, and I'm here on behalf of the Global Kratom Coalition. We appreciate Senator Hayes' intent behind this bill, and we support SB 820 with amendments. The enforcement mechanism in this bill is strong. It grants the ATCC authority to seize, confiscate, destroy dangerous substances, including tianectine, which is appropriate and necessary. In 2024, Maryland enacted a KCPA, so the issue before us is not an absence of law, it's a lack of enforcement. SB 820 does many things to correct that. However, there is a compliance problem in the bill that unintentionally eliminates any pathway for lawful kratom sales. Specifically, the bill presumes a product is contraband unless it is, quote, approved for sale and distribution for human consumption by the Maryland Department of Health or the FDA. Neither of those entities approve dietary supplements. Under federal law, dietary supplements are not pre-approved by the FDA before sale, and MDPH does not operate as an approval regime for these supplements. As drafted, no retailer could ever demonstrate compliance, even if they fully comply with the existing 2024 statute. We believe this was unintentional, as every other substance listed on the bill is illicit. Natural kratom is the only product listed that's not a synthetic substance, and we ask you to correct this by restoring proper compliance with Title 21, Subtitle 2E of the KCPA and other applicable state law. This amendment would preserve enforcement authority against synthetic and adulterated products while maintaining a lawful pathway for regulated natural kratom products. Without this, 820 effectively nullifies the existing KCPA, creating an impossible standard, and we respectfully request that this bill be amended. It's a targeted fix, and thank you for your time and work on this issue.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Do we have any questions for these panelists? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Next up, we have a group of unfavorables. Jack Hennenfield, Scott Williams, McLean Haddow, Robin Watson, Lisa Lowe, and one more, Danielle Campbell. You can go ahead and get started, just left, once you squeeze it there, just left to right. Whoever wants to start. Thank you.
Go ahead. Hi, I'm Jack Henningfield. Actually, I'm favorable, but I think, as the last speaker mentioned, I support an amendment. So I'm Jack Henningfield. I'm a professor adjunct part-time at Johns Hopkins, where I've been for 48 years now, and Vice President of Research and Health Policy at Pinney Associates. I've been studying kratom for more than a dozen years, a lot of it with my colleagues at Hopkins. And there's been more than 500 studies in the last 15 years, mainly supported with $100 million of research from my old institute, the National Institute on Drug Abuse. The amendment that I suggest, or the clarifications, I think builds well on some of the comments you've already heard. Natural kratom is actually a public health asset, and our studies at Hopkins and elsewhere and by NIDA support that. But the problem is products masquerading as kratom. And a lot of products that are saying we're natural kratom, we're a kratom derivative, are actually contaminated or adulterated. 7-hydroxy or 7-OH is a particular bad player that has become such a problem that last July, on July 29th, the FDA and Secretary of Health held a press conference. FDA, by the way, been doing its own studies on kratom and is coming up with some, it did its own safety study, in fact. In their press conference, they said the problem is 7-OH and by extension other chemicals. They were clear to say our focus is not kratom. And in their press conference, they included a chronic pain patient who's been using kratom for more than 7 or 8 years and let her spoke because they wanted to highlight the fact that although kratom is not an FDA-approved drug, it can be a health asset. So if you have any questions about the science related to kratom, and a couple came up already, I'm happy to address those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We can just go right down the line.
Okay. Hi, thank you everybody for taking the time to listen to me. My name is Robin Watson Blackwood. I'm from Catonsville and I love it. I've been a language arts teacher for 27 years and then I've been in drug policy reform since 2010. And some things are just the best intention, but my whole point is harm reduction, safety. We should keep Marylanders safe. And plain kratom leaf definitely should not be a part of that at all. But I would venture to say most all of those things need to be regulated because that's just the smartest approach. But please, let responsible kratom consumers have access to kratom in the state of Maryland. And that's kind of it. That's all I really wanted to say. So you got a minute. You're welcome.
Thank
you very much for your testimony. We'll go.
Good afternoon. My name is Danielle. I'm a business owner, an artist, and a member of this community. I suffer from chronic pain due to an autoimmune disease, and kratom gave me my life back. Over 50 million Americans suffer from chronic pain. Roughly 58 million have diagnosed arthritis, and estimated 15 to 16 million Americans currently use kratom. Not because they are reckless, because they tried everything else and this is what works. These are your neighbors, your family members, they are sitting in this room. This bill requires FDA approval before kratom can be sold. Do you know what else doesn't have FDA approval? Melatonin, turmeric, fish oil, elderberry. The entire $60 billion industry operates without it. That is not an oversight. That is how the law was written. Apply that standard only to kratom. This is not regulation. This is a ban. Ask yourself, who benefits when kratom disappears from Maryland shelves? Not me, not the millions of people who use it, the companies that manufacture the opioids and prescriptions that kratom users have walked away from. They benefit. This is not a conspiracy. That is economics. 7 states have already passed the Kratom Consumer Protection Act, including Maryland, Virginia. It requires testing, labeling, age limits. It protects consumers without eliminating access. That is the path Maryland should continue to take. Do not push people away from a plant and toward a pill. Do not ban this plant. Vote no on SB 820, please, and thank you. And I encourage you to reference my entire testimony, as well as the testimony of RJ Jackson he submitted, but he could not speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Hi, my name is Lisa Lowe. I'm with Family Advocates Coalition to End Addiction in Maryland. And since 2020, advocates have worked hard to regulate kratom. 2 years ago, we passed the Maryland Kratom Consumer Protection Act, which currently is in effect and provides strong consumer safety. And among those protections is a clear and enforceable standard that limits kratom to no more than 2% of the total alkaloid fraction in a kratom product. If 7-OH is the products that are being discussed today, not natural kratom leaf. If you went and somebody put a poison into a tomato and called it a tomato and put it in the grocery store to sell it, you wouldn't take all of the tomatoes out of the grocery store and ban tomatoes. You would figure out how to enforce the standards that exist. Rather than replacing a law that is working, the better path is to enforce the existing KCPA standards and ensure that products on the market comply with those protections. Across the state, tons of thousands of adults rely on natural kratom leaf and properly manufactured extracts to improve the quality of life. Many use these products for pain management, to support mental health, wellness, or a harm reduction alternative to far more dangerous substances. Kratom is used to detox opiate users from far more dangerous products, and then use natural kratom to manage chronic pain. For these consumers, kratom is not a health threat. It's a tool to help them live healthier and more productive lives. The question this committee should be asking is how to regulate or get rid of these ban these 7-OH formulas, which are synthetics. and we already have these laws in place. And we don't want to use this to undermine the framework that is already working.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your testimony. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Henningfield, when you introduced and on a sign-in sheet, you represent that you're a part-time professor at Johns Hopkins. I wanted to provide you an opportunity to state that your testimony here before this committee is not the official position of the university. Is this the case?
Yes, it is. And in my own notes, I said these are my own opinions. And looking at the clock, my opinions are my own opinions and do not represent the university or Pinney Associates. I advise the American Kratom Association, but they don't advise me.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Also, I think Lisa, you may have, and someone else may have testified about the 2%. I do want to point to your attention that the language that refers to the percentage is current law. The legislation and the requirements around this was championed by former Speaker Adrian Jones quite a couple of years ago. And so this bill is not defining that. That's already something that was accepted and passed through the legislature. This bill simply provides enforcement to what has already been approved by the legislature. Is that your understanding, or do you read it differently?
No, that's why the bill would need to be amended to get rid of, I'm actually in favor with the amendments that, we've talked about.
Gotcha.
The FDA, and what she said, the FDA doesn't regulate.
No, I get that
So
part.
we
And
got to get rid of that language.
Yeah, and we'll
that-
take a look at that. I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that when you refer to the 2%, that's current law. That's something that the legislature has already enacted. We've done that piece of business, right? This
Right.
is really about the enforcement.
So you have to figure out with the regulatory guy that was sitting up here to, in support, how they would regulate, figuring out how to, keep the
10-4, got it. I'm clear.
2% on the shelf while getting rid of the dangerous 7-OH stuff, which is, refers to my tomato analogy.
Indeed. Thank you so very
May
much.
I make an analogy about
No,
that?
we're good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Senator Washington.
Thank you all for being here. So you guys are against this bill, is that right?
I am.
You are?
Against,
Okay.
in this, yeah.
Okay, perfect, okay. So can you just describe to me what's kratom?
It's a leaf from a tree in Indonesia. I can't remember the.
That's correct. Mitragina speciosa.
Yeah.
Is what it's called.
Somebody talked about butchering. Yeah. There are some Latin words in some of these plants. Like I butcher that too.
Well, thanks. Look, I can look it up. I just wanted to see if you
It
guys had
sits on the
understood. I think I got the answer.
receptor.
I got the answer, ma'am. I got the answer.
Okay.
The proponents of the bill are, say that this is enforcement, but what I'm hearing from you is this is kind of a ban on this substance. Describe to me, how is it a ban versus the enforcement of it, and versus giving an entity in here in a state to enforce the use of this material?
Well, if we can't purchase if we can't purchase a product that FDA is not going to regulate, then that's a de facto ban. If we can't get it in our state, then that's a ban.
Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm drinking water, which has standards for toxicants, heavy metals, pathogens. So everything has, that FDA looks at, you need some kind of standard. The 2% level for 7-hydroxy, me and other experts advised the American Kratom Association almost 8 years ago that they should support that because 7-hydroxy is a bad actor. And the FDA now supports that very strongly. And if you look at their materials from July 29th, they're very strong on contaminants like 7-hydroxy, but also on making clear in the letter to colleagues that the FDA commissioner sent out, our focus is not kratom, and I would add natural kratom products. So again, the devil is in the details. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater or tar and feather what's helping people. And by the way, you probably know that Maryland, like the rest of the nation, has seen a downturn, the first in history, of opioid overdose deaths and drug overdose deaths. Kratom is contributing to that, and the research by Hopkins and NIDA support that conclusion. Nobody knows how many deaths exactly were saved by kratom and buprenorphine and naloxone, but it's a public health asset. So it's the details.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's important to note. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So, just so I understand real quickly, so Mr. Henningfield, you signed up unfavorable, but it sounds like you're favorable with amendments, correct?
I'm absolutely favorable to the concept and the discussion.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know where to put myself.
Sure,
because
that's fine. We'll figure it out.
It's the details.
We'll figure it out.
Get the details right, and it's great.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good.
I don't care about what you do with all these other dangerous
Thank you.
drugs. Ban them. We need
it's
to
okay.
separate the natural 2%
I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your testimony. That's all this. We're going to move on to the virtual witnesses now.
Thank you.
All right, so it sounds like we have on virtual Matthew Lowe and Venus Usher. Let's start with Mr. Lowe.
Can everyone hear me? For some reason, my camera won't go on. But that's... Oh, there we go. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate your time today. I'd just like to clarify a few points, and just to clarify, I am in support of this regulation with amendments. I think that the main issue here that's being missed is the pushback isn't against the enforcement of the regulations that currently exist around natural kratom leaf. The bill, or the KCPA as it currently sits, is a good bill. It regulates natural kratom leaf appropriately. It removes dangerous synthetics from the market and ensures that products aren't getting into the hands of children. These are all good things. Unfortunately, as the bill is currently constructed, it creates a de facto ban on natural kratom leaf because it requires FDA approval, which FDA does not give approval for dietary supplements. And it also requires approval from the Maryland Department of Health, which is also not possible. So it's a constructural area, I believe. It's not the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill is to keep legally or lawful natural kratom leaf products on the market and to get rid of dangerous synthetics and products that are advertised to children, as has been discussed in this hearing. So our request is just to amend this bill so it's not a constructive ban and allows for lawful products to continue to be sold in the market. I also want to say that a lot of these products that are brought up in this bill are already synthetic drugs. Tianeptine is a synthetic drug. Phenibut is a synthetic drug. Natural kratom leaf is a natural botanical, which is regulated as a dietary supplement. So I think it's critical that we make that distinction, push forward the amendments that we've proposed, and regulate this market appropriately to protect the consumers of your great state. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have Venus Usher.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Venus Usher, and although I live in Delaware, my brother and his family are in Maryland. So anything you decide directly affects myself and my family. And can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just,
okay,
I don't think you have your video on,
Yeah,
so we can't see you.
Okay, can I still keep going?
Yeah, that's fine. Go,
Thank
keep
you
going.
so much. From 2000 to 2017, I lived with severe undiagnosed pain. I was misdiagnosed repeatedly. I was eventually diagnosed with interstitial cystitis, fibromyalgia, severe abdominal adhesions, and recurrent kidney stones. And I suffered for 17 years without any answers. Then 9 years ago, I found plain leaf kratom tea, and for the first time, I experienced relief. It didn't sedate me, it didn't make me high, it helped me function, it helped me rebuild my life. So I think kratom should be regulated. with the amendments that they were discussing, not banned. Age restrictions, clear labeling, which is in the KCPA. Third-party testing, keep plain leaf kratom separate from synthetics or enhanced products, and that protects consumers without destroying lives. And thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have Michael Fasano.
Hello. My name is Mike Fasano. I spoke on Tuesday, I believe. I've been a kratom consumer, just a natural tea consumer for over 15 years. No complications, no problems. I consume it for chronic insomnia. It sometimes helps with my joint pains, and at times it helps with my ADHD focus. I originally voted unfavorable because I was under the impression this was a ban or criminalization, and I pray and I hope that this state nor any state goes that route. I'm from Chicago. However, I do have friend advocates, cyber friend advocates that consume kratom, for chronic pain and other ailments in different states. So I support them. I empathize and am sympathetic to them. And I'm also sympathetic and empathetic to responsible business owners. For example, the town over, we have a responsible, sells only the natural leaf, tea leaf, educated in what they're selling, and they have appropriate atmosphere, and they're doing it right. But then, if you go to a gas station just a few miles away, we got flashing neon lights lit up, Delta 8 kratom, and you go to the front, and there's these semi-synthetic pills and shots and all that, and it smells like skunk in there. And the unfortunate part is it goes back to the bad actors that ruin it for good people, and I firmly believe that. So say, for instance, that village comes up with a ban, that reputable vendor or vendors that are doing it right could be negatively impacted. I do not believe that is fair. I also think that maybe too, the people that are selling the kratom products, if they have some sort of training and education, because I know even with the strong labeling, sometimes people have questions, and I think that's important that someone could answer those questions when customers want more information. So thank you again for letting me time to speak.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right. So that ends the hearing on Senate Bill 820. Are we going to go into Senator Gazzoni here? Senator Gazzoni, Senate Bill 763, Maryland Technology Development Corporation, Maryland Growth Initiative. We have your panel is Troy Stovall, I hate this, Abhishek Montoya, Mustafa Al-Adami, Joshua Barnes, and George Diaz-Schneider. Jorge. I don't know any of that. Oh.
I am always ready. Thank you, Madam Chair. Hopefully this won't be as confusing as the last bill. Wasn't quite sure. This bill is part of the President's and the leadership's initiative this year on growth. We've been working a lot on affordability. The bill that I think you heard from him earlier was the beginning of it. I have a bill. I think Senator Zucker will come after me. And so there are a number of pieces and parts, and there's some other elements to it also, to this growth initiative. This bill is called the Maryland Growth Initiative. But what I want to do is start by telling a little bit of a story, because I think that's important to understand why this bill is important. And that story begins in 2012, and with a bill of a very similar name. It is the Maryland Innovative Initiative. And that program has existed for those number of years. The idea there was to merge TEDCO put them together with our 5 research institutions in the state, and do our very best to work on tech transfer and getting some commercialization coming out of those universities. And the good news is that it was a tremendous success. Back then, we were in the top 5 in terms of receiving research dollars, but at that time we were 38th in commercialization, in patents and intellectual property coming out of those universities and things that could go to market potentially. By 2020, though, with this program in place, we were 8th. Pretty significant bump up and increase in our state's success rate. We last year added Bowie and Frostburg as pilots. And then in legislation last year, ultimately, we added all the state's universities and colleges, including community colleges. This program has been working on about $6 million a year, which is pretty amazing considering the breadth of what needs to be done. For what it's worth, I'll let you know that we're going to be adding another $5 million this year to bump up the program significantly. So we get these companies. They're starting to generate. They're starting to be something, but they need more resources. They're generating some patents, maybe some of this intellectual property, but they're looking around for more money. They may look outside the state, so we could easily lose these companies, these investments that we've been making. And so that's where this bill comes in, this Maryland Growth Initiative. So with this bill, another $5 million that we're going to be putting aside and using it to help those companies that have gotten past their initial and are scaling up. And we want to keep them here. We want to ensure that we're getting the benefit that we've initially invested in and take that benefit hopefully even further for jobs and for products that will hopefully be used all over the world. That's basically what this bill does. TEDCO will tell you about all the great things they do to help those individuals along the way, help them develop themselves, provide the insight, the guidance along the way, and then use some money to help them push themselves forward. So that's the 1-2 that hopefully is going to keep propelling us forward. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Who would like to go next? Troy.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, my name is Troy Lamel Stovall. I humbly serve as the CEO of TEDCO. I want to thank Senator Gazone for all your leadership on this bill, but your overall leadership and everything, your support of TEDCO. I appreciate the story about MII. It is absolutely an amazing story but that's just one of a couple of pipelines of how we get these great ideas. So MII, also the federal labs and the work that we do with our federal labs. There's people's garages. They're the back of the napkins. And so what this bill does is that these comes at that very early stage, and they're not quite investment ready. How do we get them beyond that stage where they're still early, that early concept stage? In our world, it's kind of pre-proof of concept or minimum viable product, just to be a little technical. But how do we get them beyond that stage and to a point where they can be scaled? But the other part of this bill, it's not just about, and we want to thank you for the money and the resource you provided TEDCO, but the resource you provide us to support those companies, as Senator Gazone talked about. So it's not just about the investment, it's about the support services that not just TEDCO, but the ecosystem provides to these. So as much as this bill is, and we appreciate the support to TEDCO, this is also about how do we make sure the ecosystem is, like I like to say, really stitched around these companies, really cocooning around these companies, and at the end of the day, scaling these companies for successful growth here in Maryland. So we do support this bill, and we ask for a favorable response. And I'm excited, not just by the panel that we have here as I close, but also by the show of support of the written testimonies that we received. It really does show, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee, that this is more than just about TEDCO. This is about, again, you heard me say many times, the stitching of the ecosystem to bring together the ecosystem in support of these early stage companies. So with that, I think we'll just start down here and go down the other way.
That works for me. Chair Biddle, Vice Chair Hayes, and members of the committee, thank you for having us here today. My name is Josh Barnes, and I'm the co-founder and COO of a company called Harbor Designs and Manufacturing. We're a Baltimore City product design and contract manufacturer that operates under a unique regional collaborative manufacturing model. We share resources across startups and institutions. We've helped bring more than 500 diverse products to market, many of them built right here in Maryland. Our products have reached the International Space Station, lined the shelves of Walmart and Target, and you've seen TV commercials and TV shows like Shark Tank, some of them displayed. We support the VA in making products that improve outcomes for veterans, and our products have served the U.S. Post Office, Department of Energy, DOW, and even Amtrak. We're ISO certified for medical devices, and we are one of the core engineering and manufacturing solution partners that Maryland's most promising innovators come to when they need their science to scale into a product. We've got a renowned ecosystem here with Johns Hopkins University, Morgan State, University of Maryland, NIH, and NSF in our backyards. But too often the companies born here incubate with Maryland tax dollars and leave for California, Massachusetts, or New Jersey. It doesn't need to be that way, and our own innovation economy is constantly being harvested, and SB 763 helps correct that. Maryland Growth Initiative bridges what we call the valley of death, that critical gap between early development and commercial scale where too many promising companies collapse. My experience in companies sits at exactly that junction. When a TEDCO-backed company is ready to build, they need a manufacturing partner who can help them produce their devices, establish their quality system, navigate FDA and regulatory requirements, and also figure out how to scale their production. It's our job to help them do that, and I've seen firsthand when they thrive, our entire local supply chain thrives with them, and this bill supports more of that growth. Anecdotes for success are everywhere. Rooster Bio grew from 4 employees to 57, and so many other cases like that. But it just goes to show when we invest in these companies and institutions and startups, jobs and economic output happens here.
Josh, start right here. Sure.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair Badal, Vice Chair Hayes, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 763. I am Abhishek Matayat, founder and CEO of N5 Sensors, headquartered in Rockville, Maryland. N5 Sensors is a University of Maryland spinout that I founded in 2012. We develop AI-powered sensors that detect wildfires, chemical threats, and hazardous air quality, protecting our military, first responders, and critical infrastructures. Our products are deployed all across the US and globally. We have grown to over 30 employees with cutting-edge R&D and manufacturing facilities right here in Maryland. None of that would have been possible without TEDCO's continued support. N5 is also pioneering domestic semiconductor manufacturing, developing cutting-edge semiconductor products right here in Maryland. We are actively training the next generation of engineers in semiconductor manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and advanced communication technologies, ensuring Maryland's workforce stays competitive nationally and globally. TEDCO supported N5 at every critical stage, from inception to growth through various programs like MII, helping us move from the lab to real-world deployments. SB 763's Maryland Growth Initiative Fund provides exactly the bridge capital that proven companies need to scale and stay in Maryland. Maryland's greatest risk is not a lack of innovation, it's losing that innovation to other states. Thank you, Chair Gazzoni, for your leadership on this bill. I'm proud to be a Maryland entrepreneur, and I strongly urge a favorable vote on SB 763. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity to offer testimony in support of SB 763. My name is Mustafa Al-Alami, and I am the CEO and founder of Aztec Diagnostics. About 4 years ago, my grandfather had a very bad infection, and it took physicians about 4 days to tell him what antibiotic he should be taking, because the test that tells physicians what antibiotic to take takes that long. So I watched him go from a young 87-year-old to a much, much older one very, very quickly, and I thought I should do something about it. So the next logical thing is to come back to Maryland and start a company So I asked, how do I start a company? And they said, well, you reach out to your friends and family, ask them for money. My dad made $6 a month, and 2 years before that, I was a refugee. My friends and family did not have money. However, TEDCO became my friends and family, and that is how I was able to go from scientist to a founder very quickly. And Maryland has been an amazing place to build my company. It has research institutions like Maryland and Hopkins, R&D houses, manufacturing, all of that. But to go from a research idea into scale and real venture money, you need more money to build your idea. And that is what we call the valley of death. This is where Josh touched on it, but we all go through that. We all need that money. And this program, what's it called? I forgot. The Maryland Growth Program. This is where it comes in to bridge that gap so we can go over the valley of death. And that is why I'm here today to urge the committee to give Senate Bill 763 a favorable report. Thank you.
That's an amazing story. When we run for office, we're told our friends and family.
Terrific. Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. It's an honor to be here with you representing Ion Storage Systems. My name is Jorge Diaz-Schneider, and I have the privilege of being CEO of that amazing innovative group. We are a solid-state battery company, also a child of University of Maryland, and we're proud to be the head-scratcher in the industry because most of this industry resides in a different state on the other side of the country. We are very proud to be really the one of the poster childs of what happens when you create an ecosystem that is not just friendly in terms of investment, but it leverages something that is unique to its space, and that is the talent and the passion of Marylanders, and then also the guidance that comes with partnerships with institutions like TEDCO. It is not just about the dollars. It is about the stewardship and the leadership that comes with those dollars. Ion Storage Systems is on the verge of becoming the first solid-state battery company to be successful in a word that was shared by this panel just this afternoon. Commercialization. It just rolls off our tongues. It is very, very tough to do. It is very, very difficult to do. And through opportunities like the ones that has been granted through TEDCO, who has been instrumental to our growth, we are growing right here in Maryland. It will be a unique achievement. Please stay tuned. But it will be a U.S.-made solid-state battery that delivers performance in places where existing technologies and competing solid-state technologies do not. And so we are very proud to stand here as a testament to what can be achieved when these three things are combined successfully. And we urge you to support the Bill 763. We are certainly in favor of it and look forward to continue to this wonderful ecosystem that through TEDCO and bills like this you all have been able to create. Thank you.
Thank you. I see a question from Senator Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at this fiscal note on here. It's above that threshold a little bit we talked about.
I'll let you have one.
It is.
I know. I noticed. Thank you for bringing the bill, Mr. Chairman. It's a great bill. I just have a few questions about it, and it seems like, again, it's a great bill. I know that there's some services that are provided. It seems like it's a lot of services provided and opportunities provided, but how do you balance to make sure that the services from consultants and paying consultants versus paying for the space and the areas that they're going to be in? How do you balance the two to make sure that this equitably that it depends on that business for them to be able to thrive?
No, thanks for that question, Senator. No question. And so we take each of these individual. We have a group called Venture Development, and that's exactly their job. And I tend to talk about this. Excuse me. We want to have companies come to us. And I talk about this notion of a virtual concierge, that they come to us and we begin to ask them enough questions to begin to really understand where they are in their journey and what they need, and introduce them, if you will, the house of TEDCO, and introduce them to different rooms in that house, and really personalizing that journey with them. But even more so, Senator, so that we're not just giving them journeys of today, we want to get predictive of where they're going to be over the couple. So this is absolutely, and we do this today with the current resource we have, and so this just will help amplify making that journey journey happen.
Got it. With the $5 million, how many businesses are we looking to impact?
It depends on how each of that level of detail. But if you look at our current portfolio, if you look at the $5 million, our current portfolio, we're writing checks, again, investment checks anywhere from $150,000 up to $2 million right now. That number probably will shift downward because we're doing earlier stage, so that we'll probably be doing more like $50,000 to $100,000 checks.
But this isn't your first stretch of going through for, these early stage businesses, right? You've done that before. So why would you have to downgrade?
No, I think at the early stage, it may sound counterintuitive, but at that early stage, you can't give them too much money. You want to give them enough to get to that next stage, but not give them. You want to give them enough, but not too much. And so there's a. And each company is different because a life science company needs a little bit more capital. Ashtec need a little bit more different money than a tech company. So a lot of this is, and we've got a chief investment officer is behind me here, Jack Miner. We do a lot of time analytically looking at where they are, what their funding needs are going forward, and then trying to price that out to get them the right amount of money.
How do you prioritize geographically the funds being spent in areas of need?
Yeah, I'm very proud of the fact that we've done, it's particularly my now 5+ years at TechCo, we can show investments across all parts of the state. And so and Ms. Tammy Thomas is right behind me as well. She leads our development and marketing efforts. We have a very extensive effort going out into the community. We do investment forums. We do things actually in the community that are very specific to geographies, like we're doing in Western Maryland with EIRs, entrepreneurs in residence. We got to launch something very similar in Southern Maryland. We've got efforts not just at a geographic level, but also at a demographic level as well. So how do we get into women efforts? How do we look at efforts in Baltimore City and in Prince George's County? So we have very specific areas at a geographic and a demographic level.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Prince George's County because
I was intentional.
One, I live there and it's very important, and two, we have a thriving tech industry in the county that the state does not talk about enough, and that we don't focus on enough. I'm including aerospace. There's a lot of aerospace folks here, and we don't really think of that when you talk about Prince George's County. We were the hardest hit in the state when these Fed jobs were left, or the president and Doge got rid of them. About 15,000 jobs. In the country, we have the state of Maryland has lost the most amount, and therefore Prince George's County has lost the most amount in this country. And so, we are looking for support from this industry, from the tech industry, to invest in our areas. And we have to, and it is, to me, it is TechCo's responsibility to ensure we have the jobs that are starting up in Prince George's County, thrive there, but also stay there too. And so I hope that this bill lands in a way that is geographically focused on areas where it has been hardest hit by this economy and where those businesses can thrive, and where we've already situated University of Maryland, where this gentleman said he started at University of Maryland and worked there, but now my man is all the way out in Montgomery County now. So, I would love to see those businesses stay in our county, and for TechCo to find a way for it to be useful within this, to stay in those counties and not stay in the county and not move. Yeah. So I hope that this aligns also with your TechCo report about Prince George's County too, because it's important, because we are losing industries in Prince George's County. We lost Six Flags recently, which is we lost the stadium for the Commanders, and the FBI. We don't know where that is right now. So this $5 million, although it's just $5 million, is important to the businesses in Prince George's County. And I hope you guys will find a strong focus with these new efforts in Prince George's County.
No question. As you know, Senator, I'm a resident of Prince George's County as well, so I have a personal. But yes, we're doing quite a bit of work, not just with the University of Maryland College Park, but also with Bowie State. We're going to be doing work. We actually have, the Senator mentioned the work we're doing at Bowie State. So we have a number of efforts. Actually, we have an individual who is actually positioned in the county, and his job is, when I first got here more than 5 years ago now, we had one investment in Prince George's County. We now have over 10.
I think my point has been made, and I would love for this program to be focused a lot of its efforts in areas of need for these types of businesses.
No question.
I don't see any other questions. Thank you, Senator Gazzoni and your panel. Most of the panel's staying for Senator
Well,
Zucker.
I'm staying, we swapping out some people, but that's okay. It's all good. You know,
Swap out whoever you
yeah,
need.
you know, this is what I do.
Make it easy. Senator Zucker, are you ready?
You stay in.
So Senator Zucker's doing Senate Bill
Everybody
905,
back.
Maryland Technology Development Corporation, Maryland Advanced Manufacturing Grant. I think you need, let's see, Stephen Walker, Joshua Barnes, and Jorge's already there. Okay,
I'm teasing.
well, good.
Hey, you. What's going on? Hey, good afternoon.
You can start whenever you're ready, Senator.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, distinguished members of the committee. For the record, Senator Craig Zucker here in support of Senate Bill 905, which is involving the Maryland Technology Development Corporation, called the Maryland Advanced Manufacturing Grant Program. Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chairman, first, I wanted to salute you and thank you for your co-sponsorship. Also wanted to, sometimes staff, our teammates, are the unsung heroes. So I also wanted to salute Jody Sprinkle for her, diligence and hard work around all this. But colleagues, this is around growing Maryland's economy and making sure we're investing in real state treasurers. When you think about manufacturing, one of the best ways to utilize the state's budget, especially the capital budget, is investing. And so when I think about quantum computing, when I think about aerospace, when I think about biotechnology, when I think about regenerative medicine and advanced technology industries across the board, the impact that the capital budget and operating budget have is just indispensable and invaluable. And that is really at the core of this piece of legislation, is leveraging the capital budget in advanced manufacturing technology. And what I mean by that is, when you look at Maryland's competitiveness around the life sciences, we're really number one, but we want to sustain that. Creates and maintains high-paying jobs and keeps us competitive, and in some ways inoculates us against some of the volatility around what's happening in the federal government. What this program is set to do is invest at the earliest stages, because what happens often is these advanced manufacturers just need this lifeline to go from small business to a giant. And for me, colleagues, this kind of hits home. My father was in manufacturing. I think prior to his place shuttering, what kind of a difference this program would have made to the longevity he might have had in his position. So what this grant does is it will create, again, this opportunity to tackle and focus money in the most important stages of the real technology, the grant program's impact. It'll keep us competitive with other jurisdictions. And also, it will leverage state dollars, because for every dollar that we put in, it basically it results in $3 worth of economic impact. And for every job created, it creates another 5. So, Madam Chair, colleagues, this is about growing the economy. This is ensuring that we're doing an economic booster shot to the state of Maryland, and this is going to provide the much-needed resource that we need to sustain our manufacturing in the state of Maryland. And with that, I'll turn it over to my panel.
Again, Troy Lamel Stovall, the CEO of TEDCO. Senator Zucker, thank you for your continued support of TEDCO and for this bill specifically. And Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, thank you for your support of this bill. This is just as a continuation of the conversation we just had over the previous bill. This is about providing us, TEDCO, another tool to drive these early stages of development of these companies. And many times these companies, as I said before in my previous testimony, they have these great ideas. But many times these ideas have to be manufactured. This isn't software. Sometimes something has to actually be made. And that made has to come from somewhere. And so you're going to hear from folks here about how we have to make stuff. And sometimes that making stuff, you don't think about manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, when it comes to therapeutics. things have to be made. Those cells have to be produced. Regenerative medicine, things have to be produced. So it's not always just the physical things. Sometimes they're just cells that have to be manufactured. And so what this grant does, what this tool does, is gives us another tool so that we begin advancing these types of opportunities. And so advancing and providing those the stage. And just like we need investment dollars at that early stage for those tech and life science companies, we also need investment dollars. Yes, these are going to be grants, but investment dollars to ensure that these early stage, these manufacturers are doing, and by the way, as I close and turn over to the panel, one of the biggest challenges we have is when we're making these investments of these great companies that are coming out of our research labs, are coming out of our federal labs, they start here with state dollars and they end up leaving. They end up leaving, going to other states that have a better manufacturing base than we have here in the state of Maryland. That has to stop, and that's what this bill is about. And we obviously ask for your favorable support of this bill. So thank you. And again, also I wanted to call out Jody. She knows she's always part of the One TEDCO family. So thank you, Jody, for your support.
Hello again. I stand in support, obviously, in favor of this bill as a local manufacturer and partner to TEDCO and TEDCO's many companies that they invest in, particularly in this space. We're actively supporting startups in our ecosystem that are working on regenerative wound care technologies, from exosome development, skin scaffolding to assist in reconstructive surgeries. But also as a manufacturer who leverages 4.0 technologies or aims to leverage 4.0 technologies to drive our customers' costs down and make Maryland a regional competitive place where these kind of products can be produced. And not just these kind of products, but every kind of product. Cobots and automation are very much in our future at Harbor Designs, as well as integrating AI into a multi-sided platform. So grand plans for growth for us personally, but also real opportunities that are right now with some of the companies that we're working with that are early stage. We're able to produce in small batch production methods the technologies that they have now for their pilots and trials. But as they're looking to scale those technologies, they need us to guide them through how to invest in automation to produce all of that in that same footprint here in Maryland. And so that is one of the things that we're focused on. Linshawn Medical is one of those products at TEDCO Investment. Who has the ability to disrupt the way we handle respiratory care and interventions. NasoClip is also one that the governor mentioned in his State of the State address last year that's scaling. And the only way these companies are going to be able to scale is if we strip out the cost of the labor associated with those without stripping out the people that are building those products. The goal is to be competitive on a labor basis by reducing the cost of that labor, by augmenting the labor with automation. And so with that in mind, I wholeheartedly support this bill. Thank you for bringing it.
Steve.
All right, good afternoon. Excuse me, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony to Senate Bill 905. Also want to thank Senator Zucker for his leadership on this bill. My name is Stephen Walker. I am a life science executive with more than 2 decades of experience providing leadership to biotechnical and biopharmaceutical and vaccine companies. I serve as the managing director of Celentech, a life science consultancy supporting the development ambitions of emerging and established companies. In advising earlier stage companies in life science, I've seen firsthand the critical need for resources that enable these organizations, these companies to manufacture, scale, and ultimately deliver upon their scientific aspirations. And for Maryland, advanced manufacturing capabilities represent not only scientific opportunity, but also economic potential. Strategic grant funding is essential to help Maryland evolve from a predominantly research-focused hub to a leader in commercial scale production. And will certainly strengthen our regenerative medicine and biomanufacturing ecosystem within the life sciences. When we speak of advanced manufacturing in life sciences, we are referring to the use of innovative cutting-edge technologies such as continuous manufacturing, digitization, AI, modular solutions, et cetera. If Maryland is to seize the opportunity to expand its influence in life sciences, generate revenue, and deliver societal benefit, excuse me, early stage scaling of these companies must happen, and access to capital required for infrastructure, technology, and equipment. These grants will help Maryland-based companies grow, importantly, remain in state. Thank you for your consideration, and I wholeheartedly support this bill.
Hello again, Madam Chair. Thank you again for the opportunity. It is an honor to be here a second time to talk about Bill 905, and special thanks to Senator Zucker for bringing this forward. While Bill 763 is structured to turn a flame into a torch, this bill, in my mind, is what turns a spark into a flame. I have seen wholeheartedly the type of talent that Marylanders have. It is absolutely world-class. The type of business that is solid-state battery technology is absolutely cutthroat. You go up against not just the brightest, but also companies that have unlimited resources. And we continue to come on top, both in the speed with which we innovate, but then also in the type of products and the speed with which we can take it to market. It is bills like these that have a tremendously multiplicative effect when it comes to fundraising, because having the TEDCO logo on your website creates a distinctly different perspective when it comes to a potential investor that is looking for new opportunities in disruptive markets. The other part that is incredibly important for Maryland is that there's a tremendous multiplicative effect across the community as well. The strengths of these kind of ideas are decisively the quality, the tenacity, and the drive of the people that bring them forward. And that is what this bill is going to sponsor, and those are the bets that TEDCO carefully places in these types of entrepreneurs. We stand again as very proud partners of TEDCO and that journey, and we wholeheartedly support this additional tool in the toolkit to bring these opportunities not just forward, but to make sure that they stay in state so that the state can then reap the benefits of what comes from fully developing these ideas into solutions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we have a question from Senator Warsh.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just about to turn my light off. But since I have it, I'll just ask. Thank you for this great bill. I think this bill is a really, really, really good bill. Just going back to my other question that I asked on the first panel, how do we ensure that we're talking about a lot of biotech companies here, right? And my wife works for a large biotech company, so I know them well. But how do you ensure that it's geographically diverse, that we're focusing on other areas outside of, no offense, Senator Zucker, but outside of Montgomery County and that corridor to ensure that other businesses are thriving just as well as the ones in Montgomery County are?
Absolutely. So, Senator Washington, the bill, although the focus on this conversation and the bill is around advance into life science, the bill is actually about advanced manufacturing, so across all types of manufacturing.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question too, because it does. I know that Senator Zucker mentioned life sciences, and then I guess it could be like folks the contractors that work at NASA too. Those are life sciences and advanced manufacturing. So is there a clear definition of what advanced manufacturing is in the law? Because I don't think it states it in this bill itself.
No, but I think, and I'll probably turn it over to Josh. I think from an industry point of view, it's kind of beyond kind of that early stage prototyping manufacturing. And so how do we get that scaled manufacturing is what we're trying to get to.
Right. So if someone can find me what the definition in law
I don't know about law. I don't think there's a law.
Because obviously in the bill it says advanced manufacturing or advanced manufacturing, but it doesn't clearly define what.
We can get you that, but yeah, I don't think there's a law about this. This is more of an industry vernacular.
Of course, and then it could be almost anything where you define it however you want, right? So I just want to be clear what that is, and what it looks like. So I think it'd be good to have.
And we can certainly, get you that. I would also say that, you've got the head of TEDCO, so it's also the intent. And I got to say, I'm really proud of the work that the Senate has done and the House, but especially the Capital Budget Committee in terms of its tens of millions of dollars that we've invested in Prince George's County quantum computing.
Exactly.
And other manufacturing in Prince George's County, where Montgomery County is calling me and saying, are you now Prince George's County Senator? No, I'm just supporting. No, but in all seriousness, it is it's one Maryland, but I think it also goes to the intent that we're trying to really make sure that we're investing in all parts of the state and lifting everybody up.
Yeah, look, I'm not trying to be parochial, but I am. And, I think it's, we're talking about a whole state. Like you said, we're one state, right? But a lot of these initiatives or funds go to one area most of the times and not spread throughout. And sometimes, in my experience here in the General Assembly, which is over a decade, I've seen these programs exist where they do go to one area, or when we put in legislation that say it must be geographically diverse, it makes it more equitable for other businesses that can thrive in Baltimore City, Prince George's County, St. Mary's County, Western Maryland. It could be anywhere. So I just want to make sure that that's clear.
No question.
So that we can fully invest in areas of need where we need the business focus. Like I said earlier, we're losing jobs. And our industries in Prince George's County, like a Quantum, we want to double down on that, right? And make sure that more businesses are coming to the county or to other areas that in the state that have that same experience. So,
Senator, what I'll also do, I'll have the team send you a link to our website that shows the work that we're doing across all the areas of the state, and you can literally filter it down to actually to your legislative district and down. So we'll share that link with you.
You the man. Thank you.
No.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Thank you all for your testimony. We have one person, Rachel Brewster, favorable with amendment. You can begin.
May I begin?
You can.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Finance Committee. My name is Rachel Brewster. I am the Robert and Jane Meyerhoff Chair of Biological Sciences at the University of Baltimore County. I'm here today as the Chair of the Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission, and I'm accompanied by the Executive and Associate Directors that manage the Maryland Stem Cell Research Fund, also well known as MSCRF. The Commission strongly supports continued investment in regenerative medicine and favors the bill. However, we respectfully request two targeted amendments. First, authorize the Commission to operate this program. Second, focus the program only on advanced manufacturing for regenerative medicine. And here's why. The Maryland Stem Cell Research Commission was established as an independent body by legislation in 2006. Over the past 20 years, the Commission has demonstrated that strategic investment in regenerative medicine yields life-saving advances and substantial economic return for Maryland. In fact, every dollar that the state has invested through this program to companies has resulted in $79 in return. Furthermore, the Commission is uniquely qualified to run this program, having built efficient and cost-effective infrastructure and oversight as it relates to the field of regenerative medicine. Not to mention its credibility and international reputation. It would be fiscally imprudent not to take advantage of these assets. And in reference to my second point, the bill as written allocates funding for all types of advanced manufacturing. This broad focus potentially overlaps with other existing state funding advanced manufacturing programs, risking redundancy and dilution of resources critical to Maryland's specialized regenerative medicine ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any questions, but I do see your email with your recommendations, so thank you very much. Thank you. That ends the hearing for Senate Bill 905. Next, I have Becca Rhodes is going to present Senate Bill 552. She's from Senator Charles' staff. So whenever you're ready, Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, good to see you guys again. Senator Charles does love this committee. I want that on the record. Yes, he caught the bug. Good afternoon, Chair Beidle, Vice Chair Hayes, and honorable members of the committee. For the record, my name is Becca Rhodes, Chief of Staff to Senator Nick Charles, who represents District 25 in Prince George's County, and I'm here today to testify in strong support of Senate Bill 552. Senate Bill 552 establishes the Suitland Development Authority, a targeted economic development entity focused on revitalizing the Suitland Road and Silver Hill Road corridor, an area that has experienced decades of underinvestment despite its proximity to major transportation infrastructure, federal employment centers, and growing residential communities. Suitland is also a historically Black community that has long served as a center of opportunity, homeownership, and middle-class stability in Prince George's County. Yet it has not always received the level of coordinated public investment necessary to sustain that legacy. The General Assembly has already recognized that portions of this corridor are deteriorating and at risk of further decline, and that strategic redevelopment is necessary to attract businesses, retain residents, and stimulate economic activity for the benefit of both Prince George's County and the entire state of Maryland. This legislation creates a dedicated authority to coordinate redevelopment efforts, work with residents to develop a comprehensive strategy, and serve as a central hub to align state, county, and private investment in the corridor. Maryland has already seen the effectiveness of this model. The West North Avenue Development Authority in Baltimore follows a similar model, and in its first 2 years, that authority invested over $21 million in revitalization efforts, including more than $6.5 million in grants to minority, women, veteran, and returning citizen-owned businesses along one of Baltimore's most historically disinvested corridors. Suitland deserves that same opportunity for focused, coordinated investment that the state has already provided to other communities. Senate Bill 552 applies a proven model to Prince George's County, while also including a clear fiscal guardrail. The authority must become self-sustaining by fiscal year 2036. Suitland has the location, the workforce, and the potential, but what it has lacked is a coordinated entity responsible for unlocking that potential. I also just want to note really quickly that we did send an amendment to the committee to include Maryland National Capital Park and Planning on the board. And we just want to ensure strong coordination with regional planning and land use expertise. So we made sure they're a part of the board as well. For those reasons, we respectfully urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 552. I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you guys so much for your time.
I do not see any questions, Becca. Thank you for your testimony.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
We also have James Hunt, favorable with amendment from the Prince George's Planning Department.
All right, good afternoon, Vice Chair and the Chair. My name is James Hunt. I'm the Acting Planning Director with the Prince George's Planning Department. Also, happy birthday, Senator Kramer. Before I move forward, all right. On behalf of Chairman Darrell Barnes and the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, we respectfully support Senate Bill 552 with amendments to establish the Suitland Development Authority. This bill creates a dedicated entity to coordinate revitalization efforts, implement a neighborhood development strategy, and strengthen economic growth in Suitland. A focused development authority can provide the governance, structure, and financial flexibility necessary to accelerate redevelopment, attract investment, and ensure long-term stability for the community. Before I move forward, I want to be able to take an opportunity to recognize my team here is on the Suitland Cultural Arts team, who's very instrumental to implementing this plan that we have today. You want to stand? Thank you. All right. The Commission has a direct and long-standing interest in the growth of Suitland. In January of 2025, our Planning Department, in collaboration with community stakeholders, led the Suitland Cultural Arts Implementation Strategy. That effort identified Suitland as a priority location for cultural placemaking and economic development. Residents made clear that they want intentional reinvestment, vibrant public spaces, and coordinated leadership to help realize the community's vision. Establishing this authority aligns with these goals. However, However, to ensure strong coordination between land use planning, infrastructure planning, and redevelopment implementation, we respectfully request a friendly amendment to include the Prince George's County Planning Chairman or designee as a member of the authority's board of directors. Including the commission will strengthen transparency, improve interagency coordination, and ensure that redevelopment decisions are consistent with adopted plans and countywide growth policies. This amendment supports collaboration, not duplication, and ensures the planning expertise informs the authority's work from the outset. With this amendment, we believe Senate Bill 552 will provide a strong framework to advance equitable and sustainable economic development in Suitland. We respectfully urge a favorable report with this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I do not see any questions. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 552. Senator Rosa Pepp is here. Is Senate Bill 455, Economic Development. Senator, you have 5 people signed up favorable. Are they your panel?
Yes.
Okay, let's bring up Tom Cole, T-Ball Manikin, Nate Bentonen, Richard Madalino, and Bill Struver.
Happy birthday.
All day today.
It's a holiday in Montgomery County, which is why I'm here.
Okay, Senator Rosa Pepp, you can begin.
Yeah,
when
thank you
you're
very,
ready.
very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We all are generally aware of tax increment financing districts. We have them around the state for various development purposes. And basically what they do is they set aside expected real estate tax revenue from a project to help support investment generally in infrastructure, but also in other things. Basically what this bill does is take the property tax version of tax increment financing and extends it to income and sales tax increment financing. Again, around the same kinds of projects, priorities set by the locals, but providing additional source of revenue to help projects be able to move forward. With that, I conclude my testimony, urge a favorable report, and encourage you to go to the experts.
Hi, I'm Bill Struver, CEO of Cross Street Partners. Thank you, committee. Thank you, Senator Rosa Pepp, for leading the charge on this important bill. 5 key points. Over the last 30 years, our company's done major transformative projects in many states. And it's so frustrating because Maryland's so far behind in providing the critical investment tools to make these projects happen. We're losing in that competition. Secondly, I love the statewide eligibility of this bill, from Eastern Shore to Western Maryland, small town main streets, East Baltimore to West Baltimore. This is truly an impactful across the state tool. Thirdly, as the senator said, current TIF authority is wimpy, just local property tax increment. Great example, East Baltimore Choice Neighborhood, $105 million unanimously approved TIF 7 years ago for this desperately poor neighborhood between Hopkins Medical Campus and Harbor East, 3 public housing projects. Not $1 of TIF's been sold because there's no property tax increment from affordable housing. And yet there's a bucket of found money from employment that went from less than 10% 7 years ago in that 244 acres to now where Perkins Homes families, over 60% of the families have an adult earning over $40,000. That personal income tax can be reinvested back in their community. Health center, rec center, library, public spaces. Fourthly, the eligible uses of TIF go beyond parking and infrastructure with this bill to fill funding gaps in these impactful projects, of which there are many with a weak real estate market, high cost, non-existent real estate financing for these kind of projects. This will spring them loose. And lastly, this will grow the general fund without raising taxes. And so that when I go back to these states where we're doing projects in Ohio, North Carolina, Indiana, Texas, Georgia, and Rhode Island, I can say, Maryland's got a tool that's better than your tool with our transformative TIFs. And so you can stop stealing our jobs, business, and investment from my hometown. So we're ready to go.
Tom, you want to go next?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. And just to pick up where Mr. Striever left off, this is about adding another tool to the toolkit for economic development. You all, in your capacity here in the Senate, have had many people tell you all the amazing projects that they want to build in your districts, but there's not the money for the state to put up to do that. What this does is that it uses the power of a TIF to leverage the bonding authority that we already have in this state to make those projects possible. And as Mr. Striever referenced, this is going to end up with more revenue coming back to the state. What I really admire about this bill that has been brought to our sponsor and pulled together is its best practices from across the country. It looks at TIFs that have been done in Michigan, Kentucky, other states, and sort of said, where does our TIF law fall short, and how can we fill in those gaps and make it work? And that's what this bill does. It empowers local governments, local economic development authorities to play an active and intentional role around economic development to build the projects that they need to see built and that they want to see built rather than just be a passive recipient of those projects. So we're really proud of this bill. It really is just the best of the best in terms of what other states are doing. And with that, we would request a favorable report on Senate Bill 455. Thank you.
Who's next?
Madam Chair and members of the committee, my name is Nathan Bettman, and I'm testifying in support of Senate Bill 455. I recently retired from a career as an investment banker, primarily with Legg Mason and Stifel, where I put together dozens of TIF bond issues across Maryland and the eastern half of the United States, including issues for Harbor Point, East Baltimore Development, Inc., Downtown Columbia, and National Business Park. As impactful as these Maryland projects have been, their impact has paled compared with that of certain ones supported by Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Michigan in a manner whose statutes served as the models for this legislation. I served as financial advisor for 3 bond issues in support of the Downtown Bowling Green, Kentucky signature TIF. These state investments led to $450 million of project development and transformed a small, sleepy town into a city that Site Selection magazine named as one of the top 6 small cities for economic development in the country for each of the past 12 years. A similar transformation occurred in the center city and waterfront sections of Allentown, Pennsylvania, where neighborhood improvement zone there has generated over $1 billion in economic development. By utilizing state and local taxes for public and private improvements, the zone investments created 5,000 permanent jobs and was a primary driver in reducing poverty from 49% in 2011 to 33% in 2021, and boosted median income, household income, by 58%. Finally, Michigan's transformational brownfield program is playing a critical role in the resurgence of downtown Detroit. In 2025, more than $3 billion of construction had been completed or was under construction because of the program, with more billions planned.
Rich.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Rich Madalino. Today, I'm appearing before you on behalf of Montgomery County Executive Mark Elrich. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer of the county government in strong support of this bill. For those of you who might spend time driving into the District of Columbia from Annapolis, you drive in Route 50 and as soon as you cross into DC, you see a large complex that's anchored by a Costco. I think it goes by the name Dakota Crossing. That was a TIF that the District of Columbia did. Because the District of Columbia is a unitary taxing authority, they can pledge any and all of the incremental revenue that comes from a new development. They were able to create that shopping area with bonds that they issued and have them paid off within 18 months because they pledged the sales tax, incremental increase in the sales tax to that development. Every TIF, and when Montgomery County just passed its very first TIF, every TIF proposal that is coming before us, and I would probably imagine in other jurisdictions, includes a retail component. If you can add the ability of the state to come to the table and bring the incremental increase to the sales tax to add to the incremental increase in the property tax, we can actually come up with an attractive plan that gets the infrastructure built, that then gets the investment from the private sector and gets the bonds paid off very quickly. It creates more revenue for us. It creates more revenue for the state, because especially what's so attractive about housing, income tax, and we all benefit from income tax revenue. So to us, this is a smart way for us to utilize a tool, to improve a tool that is already being used by local governments around the state in a way that other jurisdictions around us, that the District of Columbia and Northern Virginia are able to do in order to keep growth happening in our state, which is why this is a smart approach, and I urge your favorable consideration of this legislation. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It's nice to see you again.
It's very nice to see you, and you should come to the drone show they're doing at Leisure World for Senator Kramer tonight. For his birthday.
Is it for his birthday?
For his birthday, that's it.
Thank you, Rich. Do I have any questions for this panel? It's very interesting. Arundel Mills was built with a TIF,
Yes.
but we didn't use you're saying use the sales tax. That's,
Have that as part of it, because
Yeah.
you can retire the bonds so much quicker. And, if you just do it off the property tax for a local government, that takes forever on a retail complex because of the value of the land and the property.
well, thank you. So I don't see any questions. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to have two favorable with amendments, Justin Fiore and Otis Rowley. No, he's going to miss his chance. Justin, we're going to have you start. Senator is getting Mr. Rowley from outside, so we'll start with you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Justin Fiore here on behalf of the Maryland Municipal League in support of Senate Bill 455 with amendments. You've heard why this is a really cool, fascinating idea. We're full support of it. Just want to highlight one area that our members noticed, and that's on the eligibility side for projects. These are projects that are not economically viable without state participation. If we limit the program only to those types of projects, it could mean that they're a little bit more risky on the local government level, because if they don't materialize the new net revenue that's looking at in the bill, then we're kind of held on the back end for the debt on the bonds. So want to work with the committee, with the sponsors, the advocates, to try to see if we can add some flexibility on the eligibility. And with that, we ask for a favorable report.
Do we have any questions at all? I don't see any. Thank you. And Mr. Rowley's not coming in? Okay. That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 455. Senator Rosapep, you now have Senate Bill 757. And I think you have Tony Bridges here from the governor's office and Paul Schwartz.
Yes, can you guys come up and join? That's great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this one than I did the last one.
Okay.
We're all aware of the tariff chaos that's going on in the world right now. Last year, President Trump tried to use authority the Supreme Court decided recently he did not have to impose extremely high tariffs on a whole variety of imports to the United States. The estimate is that those tariffs cost an average of $1,700 per household, which adds up in Maryland to about $4 billion. And the companies that do the importing, many of them, went to court, challenged the legality of what he did. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of the consumers and against what the president had proposed. Before the Supreme Court decision came down, Mr. Schwartz, who will introduce himself in a minute, came to me. He's one of my constituents, and said, I used to head U.S. government enforcement of tariffs. I got an idea. Wouldn't it be good if we could disclose to consumers what tariffs have been paid on products they're buying? And I said, I think it's a great idea. And so we worked together to draft part of this bill. But that was before the Supreme Court decision. Now, what the Trump administration is now doing I presume is complying with the Supreme Court decision. You never know, but hopefully they're complying with the Supreme Court decision. But they're using other authority to impose other tariffs. So this part of the bill is basically requiring disclosure to consumers of what tariffs are on the products they're buying. That's essentially what it does. It's still relevant because there's still tariffs. The second piece of the bill was suggested actually by the president's staff about providing an online database in the Department of Commerce which would identify Maryland companies that produce products that are competitive with imported products on which there are big tariffs, to try to help Maryland businesses by saying, look, don't buy the one with the big tariff, buy from a local producer. So that's the second piece of the bill. Along the way, the Supreme Court decision came down. And so a whole variety of companies that were paying the tariffs when they were in effect have now gone to court to get money back from the federal government. The president has been dismissive of that and says, sort of, see you in court in a couple of years. And we'll see where that goes. Bless you. But last week, the governor and the controller and the treasurer wrote a letter to the president with that $4 billion number and saying, we want to get that money back to Marylanders. So an additional provision, an amendment that I don't have for you today, but I'd be happy to talk with you all about, and I've talked with the governor's office about, is setting up a parallel web page, basically, that would identify those companies who paid the tariffs, who were in court to get the money back, who pledged to return the money to consumers who had bought from them. Different companies are saying that in the media. In some cases, that can be done directly, and Mr. Schwartz can explain the mechanics of it in a way that I can't. And some of it might just be they'll have to just lower their prices for a while on similar products. But the idea is to get the money back in the hands of the consumers who paid it. There will be opposition to the way we've drafted the requirement for disclosure. I'm open to different ways of requiring disclosure if the committee has better ideas or witnesses have better ideas. But the basic idea is the tariff chaos has been a burden on consumers, is a burden on consumers, and we're trying to help consumers get some relief, both in terms of knowing what's going on, but also getting their money back. With that, I urge a favorable report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Tony?
Sure, I'll go. Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, Tony Bridges, Deputy Legislative Officer for Governor Wes Moore, here in support of Senate Bill 757. And I want to thank the senator for bringing this bill. He stole pretty much all of my thunder and everything that he was said. I think he explained the bill pretty well. For us, especially looking back at the letter that the governor, comptroller, and treasurer sent last week, it really did outline the things that the senator already talked about in terms of the effect that the tariffs had on households as well as the state of Maryland. And so with this bill, I think we will find a way to operationalize this bill to make sure that, at the core, the things that we can do in terms of making sure that we uplift businesses and those local sources in a strategic way, we're able to do that. Really the mission of the Department of Commerce is to promote the state's commercial advantages, to spur economic development and trade. And so working with the senator, I think we can find a way to operationalize the provisions of this bill to deliver a searchable database that meets the economic development needs of our state. And so with that, I would respectfully request a favorable report on Senate Bill 757.
My name is Paul Schwartz, and currently I am Region Vice President of the National Active and Retired Federal Employees, NARF. But more importantly, formerly, I was Director of Trade Enforcement for the United States Customs Service. In that capacity, I testified before the Court of International Trade. I stand before you, testifying before you in support of SB 757. Regardless of whether imported merchandise enters into the United States through Blaine, Washington, Long Beach, California, El Paso, Texas, or JFK, or any of the other 330 ports of entry into the commerce of the United States, the importer of record pays the import duty or tariff to the United States government, and the importer is in the United States. The tariff in the normal course of business is ordinarily passed on to the ultimate consumer. us. In either case, that cost is paid by a United States entity and not the foreign exporter. It's interesting, as an aside, that there's no talk about sending that, after the Supreme Court ruling, sending the refunds to China. So the importer knows exactly how much duty he paid on any particular imported item into the United States. Since the importer of record knows exactly what he paid the U.S. government upon importation, requiring that information as a condition of purchase by the seller in Maryland is not asking for anything unreasonable. This legislation simply requires disclosure of tariff information on products sold here in Maryland and made available to the consumer. I want to end on pointing out something. We are no longer in the 1950s. Since the 1980s, we have been a major player in the global economic community, and the push had been to reduce or eliminate tariffs to open up more markets for our domestic industries. That's not where to sell the merchandise, but where to buy merchandise that you need to produce the merchandise that domestic industry produces. So the last thing I'll say is I want Maryland to lead the pack and set an example for other states to follow on how to address the illegal tariffs that were applied by the Trump administration. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions for this panel? I don't see any questions. Thank you, gentlemen.
And happy birthday, Ben.
Now, isn't the prior bill? Kelly Locklear, you're here for unfavorable.
I can't wait to see this drone show situation later, so happy birthday. Madam Chair, honorable members of the committee, for the record, Kaylee Locklear here on behalf of the Maryland Retailers Alliance. We are opposed to this legislation. So while the bill intends to increase transparency by requiring businesses to disclose when tariffs impact the price of, and I have to point this out to you, any component of a consumer good, the reality is that product pricing is influenced by many complex factors: supply chain disruptions, rising energy costs, labor and transportation expenses, severe weather events, global conflict, and regulatory burdens all do play a role. Tariffs on imported products, ingredients, and raw materials are just one of many inputs, and often not the most significant one. For retailers, isolating the exact impact of a tariff on the shelf price of a specific product, or again, all of the materials in that product, would be virtually impossible. Retailers and food and beverage companies frequently source products and ingredients from multiple suppliers and countries, often through brokers who pay duties to U.S. Customs before invoicing the retailer or the manufacturer. A single finished product may contain numerous imported ingredients as well as imported packaging materials, each potentially subject to different tariffs and rates. This would require extensive analysis. I think you probably picked up on this. New tracking systems. These create significant costs, complexity, compliance burdens for businesses, particularly small and mid-sized companies. I just have to point you to the penalty section. This would expose us to unfair, abusive, and deceptive trade practices under the Maryland Consumer Protection Act. Each one of those violations is $10,000 a piece, up to $25,000. So respectfully, we are in opposition. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. So do you think we can see the drone show from here, or are we going to have to go to Montgomery?
I don't know. Is there going to be a live feed of this later? Or is it your name in the sky? Was it a dog? Yes. Okay.
A dog? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
That ends the hearing on Senate Bill 757. Next, we're going to bring up Senator Hayes, Senate Bill 883. And your panel is Jason Levian, Chanel Mosley, Bay Frazier, Kevin Jones, and Frank Boston, DC United.
Good morning, Madam Chair. By the time I get finished, the rest of my panel will come in. So
They have to come before the end of the bill hearing.
they will. All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Finance Committee. This is an important hearing on legislation around Senate Bill 883, which authorizes the Maryland Stadium Authority to plan, finance, develop a multi-use soccer facility in the city of Baltimore. This state-of-the-art facility will anchor a campus that will be home of high-level professional soccer franchise and a unique youth academy that will educate and train dozens of young people in and around the city for careers in soccer and well beyond. This campus will also promote regional economic growth and help to expand the city's vibrant sports entertainment district. Soccer is truly a global spirit that brings people together from all continents, cultures, and generations. The kind of infrastructure being proposed in this legislation will more than just, keep coming up, will be more than just a soccer stadium. It will be a thriving campus that will not only host world-class soccer and many other events, but will also serve as a new community anchor that creates new economic opportunities and jobs, establishes new educational and training opportunities for our youth, connects and engages our neighborhoods, and gives our residents a new source of pride and community identity. This project is expected to generate substantial returns on investment made by the state, city, and DC United for many years to come. To support these objectives, DC United is committed to partnering with key organizations and individuals from the Baltimore community. In fact, you may know the Baltimore legend Carmelo Anthony is already an enthusiastic partner. The city and state already have strong grassroots soccer programs that will only be enhanced by the presence of a world-class soccer campus that embraces youth athletic development, provides a pathway to professional soccer, and promotes a pathway to better life. In fact, Madam Chair, you may know that Baltimore metropolitan area is one of the largest, if not largest areas in the country that does not have a first division men and women's soccer stadium. And given the explosion in women's sports around the world, especially soccer, it is vitally important that our community and state begin to substantially increase investment in women's sports. This legislation will go a long way in that regard. Madam Chair and members of the committee, there's a diversity of testimony written and oral as a part of this legislation. This is meant to be a beginning of a conversation that will continue to take place with the community and other stakeholders that's involved. And without further ado, I would urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 883.
Thank you, Senator. Who would like to go next?
Jason.
Jason?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Hayes, members of the committee, my name is Jason Levian, and I'm the co-chairman and CEO of DC United since 2012. I respectfully appreciate the opportunity to submit this testimony in support of Bill 883, the Carroll Park Soccer Stadium and Facility Act, which authorizes the Stadium Authority to plan, finance, and develop a professional soccer stadium and facility in Baltimore City, primarily intended for professional soccer and as a soccer academy and school. It will be a soccer and sports campus. It is an honor to be here to discuss our shared vision for making Baltimore one of the great soccer cities in the United States. And I especially want to thank Vice Chair Hayes for his attention and support in authoring this important legislation and continuing this conversation. Over the past couple of years, DC United has worked closely with the City of Baltimore, the State of Maryland, and the Maryland Stadium Authority to advance a transformational project, a world-class soccer stadium, a training campus that will bring professional men's and women's soccer, a full youth academy, and a year-round community programming to Baltimore. We feel strongly that Carroll Park, which has a rich cultural history that deserves to be honored, and will be doing so thoughtfully. We're committed to working with the community hand in hand throughout the development process to determine the best way to move this forward. Baltimore is a proud sports city with a passionate soccer fan base. We saw that clearly when we announced the Be More United Day and brought one of our biggest matches of the year to M&T Bank Stadium this Saturday as we take on Inter Miami. The energy and unity across the region reaffirm what we already know. Baltimore is ready for professional soccer. This project will bring jobs, new economic activity, and new opportunities for young people across the city. It will create a home for the next generation of Maryland athletes and a gathering place for families and fans across the state. We are grateful for the leadership, as I mentioned, of Senator Hayes, Mayor Scott, Delegate Adelson, and many others who who have shaped this vision. And we are proud to welcome partners like Carmelo Anthony and Mark Ingram, whose deep roots in Baltimore and commitment to youth empowerment strengthens this effort. DC United is prepared to make a significant long-term investment in Baltimore. We believe this project will help anchor Maryland as one of the top soccer states in the country and the top places for women's professional sports, and we are ready to move forward together. Thank you very much, and on behalf of DC United, I respectfully request a favorable report on 883, and thank you very much for your time and your partnership.
Thank you, Jason. Who would like to go next?
I would like to. Madam Chair, Vice Chair Hayes, and members of the committee, my name is Chanel Mosley, and I am the Senior Director of Community Impact, as well as the Executive Director to the DC United Foundation. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. Last night, our organization joined Baltimore Ravens, as well as the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Baltimore, for a youth engagement event that brought together young people from all across the city. The excitement and the pride of those young people showed us and reminded us how deeply Baltimore's youth value opportunity, mentorship, and spaces where they feel supported. The experience also underscored why this legislation matters. I'm here in strong support of this bill because it represents a meaningful investment in Baltimore's future. A professional soccer stadium, a training campus, and a youth development hub will expand access to the sport, education, and year-round programming for young people and families alike, and all across the city. It will create jobs, strengthen neighborhoods, and provide a home for the next generation of Maryland athletes and leaders. And at the DC United Foundation, our mission is rooted in service, equity, and community partnership. In fact, to date, we've impacted more than 300,000 young people and families. We've contributed more than 10,000 volunteer hours of service across our players, staff, partners, and fans. We've distributed more than 60,000 community tickets, and we've provided over $1 million in donations to local nonprofits. We want to be more deeply embedded in Baltimore, working alongside residents, schools, and local organizations to expand access to sport and education. This project gives us the ability to do just that in a sustained and intentional way. We also understand the cultural and historical significance of Carroll Park Golf Course, and honoring that legacy, it is essential. We're committed to working closely with the community members, historians, and local leaders to ensure that any development uplifts and preserves the history, the identity, and the stories that make this space meaningful to Baltimore. This legislation is an opportunity to build something that reflects Baltimore's pride, its resilience, and its future. And on behalf of the DC United Foundation, I respectfully express our strong support for this bill and our commitment to being a long-term, accountable partner of the City of Baltimore. Thank you for your time and your continued partnership.
Thank you.
Mr.
Frank, are you next?
No, Mr. B. I'll go last.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair Hayes, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Bay Frazier. I have represented Carmelo Anthony for over 20 years, but more importantly, I have known him as a brother and a close friend. Carmelo's career took him around the world, but Baltimore has always been home. This city shaped his resilience, his values, and his belief in creating opportunity for others. In addition to my work with Carmelo, I co-founded and serve as president of Team Melo, his longtime Baltimore-based AAU basketball program. It has grown into one of the strongest programs in the country. Through Team Melo, I have mentored and guided countless young boys and girls from Baltimore's inner city, many of whom have gone on to college and beyond, including current Washington Wizards Bob Carrington and Cam Whitmore. That experience has shown me how access, structure, and support can change the trajectory of a young person's life. This is why we strongly support the partnership with Jason Levien and DC United to bring professional soccer and a world-class soccer campus to Baltimore. For Carmelo, this project is about more than sports. It is about opportunity for young people who are too often overlooked. It is about coaching, mentorship, facilities that can open doors and build futures. Baltimore is a passionate sports city. Bringing professional men's and women's soccer here is an investment in the city's future. A stadium, a youth academy, and year-round programming will create jobs, generate economic activity, and give young people a place to dream and grow. We are grateful to this city and state leaders to have helped move this vision forward. On behalf of Carmelo Anthony, I am honored to express our full support for this effort and for the future of Baltimore. Thank you for your time and your commitment to this city.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of this committee, I am Kevin Jones, an attorney and DC United partner. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today to support Senator Hayes' legislation that authorizes the financing and development of a multi-use soccer facility and academy in the city of Baltimore. Many observers have agreed that the Baltimore metropolitan area is one of the top markets in the United States without professional soccer teams. Given Baltimore's rich sports history and that of the entire state of Maryland, this project represents a timely and exciting opportunity. The proposed soccer facility and campus can become an important economic engine for the region, and it positions Baltimore, or they will position Baltimore to become a national leader in creating soccer-related opportunities for young people, especially for young women. And the concept of a youth academy that will be co-located with the soccer facility is a groundbreaking concept that can make a real difference in the Carroll Park community and beyond. Finally, DC United and its foundation have partnered with many community-based programs in Washington over the years, as my colleague Chanel Mosley has just described. And we look forward to developing a similar partnership with the Carroll Park community and other Baltimore communities. I thank you for the opportunity to appear today and respectfully ask for your careful consideration of this important legislation.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Frank Boston III. I'm here today on behalf of DC United, and we wholeheartedly support this bill. Special thanks to Senator Hayes for sponsoring this legislation. The purpose of the bill was to allow the Maryland Stadium Authority to issue bonds to pay for the project. The identified revenue source in the bill was supposed to be subsequent, not preceding, to the blueprint funding. That is a mistake. The words where it says before, on page 11, lines 23, it says before, should have been after Blueprint gets their money. I want to make that abundantly clear. We don't want to take money away from the kids. The 10 years it took to build and pass Blueprint, so that was a drafting error. You know, the idea was for the Maryland Stadium Authority to issue bonds with the remaining 5% that's left for the repayment of the principal and interest. And like Senator Hayes alluded to, this is the beginning of the project. We wanted to put it in front of the legislature, bring it to the committee, and say, you know, it's not just a stadium, it's a campus. It's a place where it's, you know, we could bring kids from start to finish, give them education, give them soccer skills, and you know, watch some of them become pros, but most importantly, watch others get college educations and go and do things in the community. And we just need to find a revenue source. Lottery money is all taken up already, so we thought sports betting. Who knows? iGaming, if it ever passes, may be a revenue source. There is a Medco bill with TIF financing that is passing through, and maybe that's a way. So just keep your ears and eyes open. Look out for this special project for women's professional soccer in the state of Maryland. We ask for favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions at all for this panel? I don't see any. Thank you all for your testimony. I think it's very exciting, but we'll see where the money comes from.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they aren't here. This was just a panel. Yeah.
Senate Bill
867.
867.
I do. Yes, they're all coming up now. Yes. Your light isn't on, Madam Chair.
Let me try again. Panel: Andrew Parlock, Keith Cleveland, Dale Moore, Georgianne Brophy, and Michael Barton. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present on Senate Bill 867. For the record, Senator Alonzo Washington. This bill is about a simple principle of good governance. When the legislature creates a commission to produce a strategy, the state must also empower execution. This committee, just a couple years ago, created the Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission to chart a path for competitiveness in aerospace and advanced technology. The commission did that work. It met, it studied, it engaged stakeholders, and it delivered the strategic plan and annual report required from the legislation that we passed. SB 867 is the legislature's next step, turning a completed plan into real action. And let me address the point that matters to Maryland's confidence and competitiveness. Despite rumors and headlines, NASA is not closing Goddard. What we are seeing is a contested plan to shrink/close specific buildings and labs on campus. I visited there recently. It's across the street from my home. It's still there. It's not going anywhere. While NASA's work continues and the agency continues to award major contracts supporting research and mission operations at Goddard, Maryland is at a competitive inflection point in this industry. Aerospace and defense dollars are moving fast. And peer states are investing aggressively to capture firms' contracts and supply chains. We are falling behind states that are putting real money on the table, like Texas, for example, has moved aggressively in its legislature, approved $300 million for Texas Space Commission grant making to grow its space economy. Let me say that again, $300 million to the Texas Space Commission's grant-making authority to grow the space economy there. A plan without authority is not a strategy. In the case that we have right now, it's a shelf on a document, and which we want to prevent here. Right now, the MATC can identify priorities and publish recommendations, but right now it does not have the operational tools to implement, coordinate, or drive statewide execution at the pace required. The cost of inaction is real without mechanism to move these recommendations to implementation. Maryland risks becoming reactive and losing momentum to states that are building coordinated pipelines, branding, and investment strategies. SB 867 modernizes the MATC. This bill clarifies and expands MATC's mission so it fully reflects the aerospace ecosystem. It strengthens the commission's ability to operate by structuring duties and responsibilities to support real coordination, partnership building, and implementation. It requires appointment of a clear executive director so that MATC has day-to-day leadership to manage operations and drive stakeholder engagement. That's a best practice that states have done that are thriving in this country on the aerospace. It authorizes grant making, establishes a long-term commitment to competitiveness by requiring a $30 million budget starting at FY 2028. Now, I know I made fun of the chair of Budget and Tax a little bit earlier about his budget, but I understand where we're going to go with this bill. This bill does not create a new entity. The existing entity already exists through the MATC. It does not eliminate or duplicate existing state capabilities. It does not prescribe individual grant recipients in statute. This is for us to have a return on our investment. We are investing right now in aerospace. Aerospace brings high-wage paying jobs, advanced manufacturing, which we heard some things about today. We already have world-class anchors. What we lack is a statewide engine like the one we're proposing in this bill that can coordinate and execute a plan at speed. Maryland already paid the cost of planning which we've done in the last year or so. SB 867 ensures that we do not waste that work by failing to implement it. And NASA, Goddard specifically, again, is not going anywhere and is here to stay. Madam Chair, members of the committee, the Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission delivered what the legislature asked for and this committee asked for, a strategic roadmap and annual planning, an annual report, which they issued. SB 867 is our responsibility in return, giving the commission the authority and tools to execute. For these reasons, Madam Chair, I respectfully request a favorable report on SB 867. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Who's next?
I can go next. Myself?
Conflict. I have conflict.
Oh, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Finance Committee members. My name's Dale Moore. I'm the chairman of the Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission, as well as the president of the Southern Maryland Navy Alliance. I have 44 years in the aerospace business across the entire life cycle in DoD acquisition. I led the Navy's 30-year R&D plan. I contributed to the Secretary of Defense's Science and Technology Vision document, and I was integral to the 2045 Future Fleet Design and Architecture. So strategic thinking is in my blood. I would like to express my full and unequivocal support for Senate Bill 867. The Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission, as mentioned, submitted its strategic plan on 1 October to Governor Moore. It reflects significant due diligence and inputs from government, industry, academic experts. We know the aerospace landscape, as we heard this morning from President Ferguson, and it is changing and changing rapidly and significantly. We found, though, that Maryland has extraordinary untapped potential to lead, grow, and thrive in the emerging space and airspace sectors, considering Baltimore-Washington corridor with service to 27 million passengers annually, NASA Goddard with Wallops Island. We have NavAir Pax River, a $60 billion a year organization with the busiest flight test center in the world. And we have Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, University of Maryland, University Systems of Maryland, and 16 community colleges. But as mentioned before, we are now at an serious inflection point. We're either in the game and leading the way or risk falling behind and missing real and substantial opportunities. Aerospace technologies and innovations are emerging and accelerating at extraordinary rates, and markets are changing and expanding accordingly, both nationally and globally. Our MATC strategic plan was designed to help the state ride what might be considered a tsunami wave of change. SB 867 focuses on turbocharging a Maryland aerospace innovation engine and expands participation across the state to build coalitions for change and transformation. Thank you.
Who's next?
Madam Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the Senate Finance Committee, my name is Georgie Brophy, and I serve as the Vice Chair of the Maryland Aerospace and Technology Commission. I'm also on the board of the Maryland Space Business Roundtable, co-founder of the Maryland Aerospace Alliance, and I've been in Maryland doing aerospace for 34 years. So love aerospace, love Maryland. I'm pleased to submit my testimony in support of Senate Bill 867 with amendment. The MATC, as the senator said, we published a strategic plan, but to implement successfully, it's essential that we have updates to the commission structure, membership, and the overarching mission. These changes modernize the commission to reflect Maryland's rapidly evolving aerospace ecosystem, as we've been talking about all afternoon, actually. And those changes to membership include commercial space company inclusion, advanced aviation leaders, key federal anchors that are present in Maryland, and representatives from the aerospace and technology zones, which really bring in this whole coalition across the state of what we've got going on across the state. Senator already mentioned the creation of the executive director role. And really importantly, the commission must support commercialization in our state so we have a self-sustaining ecosystem beyond what we've been dependent on the federal budgets for. The one amendment I recommended was to zero out the appropriation simply because we need the money. Yes, absolutely. I do believe the modernization of the structure of the commission is essential. I don't want to see this bill passed on if it's due to the fiscal request. Maryland's peer states are not waiting. We've already heard about Texas, Alabama, Colorado, Virginia, anywhere from $15 million a year to $150 million a year. Maryland must match the pace. We cannot compete if we stand still. With that, I ask for the favorable report with amendment for Senate Bill 867.
Thank you. Now who?
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, Senator Hayes. I am Andrew Parlock, the co-founder and CEO of Space Phoenix Systems. I am a globally recognized expert in space logistics and in-space manufacturing and a 17-year resident of Baltimore City. Space Phoenix is incorporated here in Maryland and plans on staying. Our headquarters is in Baltimore City. I support and am here today in support of Senate Bill 867. The World Economic Forum produced a report last year, said the global space economy will grow to $2.3 trillion over the next 10 years. Greg Autry, the new CFO of NASA, or nominated CFO of NASA, says that number's 10x greater. I say this because to say that aerospace is an economic development engine is almost pedantic. It's an understatement of mass proportions. And few states should be able to take advantage of this growth better than Maryland. We've already mentioned NASA. We can mention multiple other aerospace companies, but startups like Space Phoenix, Rocket Labs, York Bus, all exist here in Maryland. However, today, I get on a flight and fly down to Austin, Texas. Because as Senator Reedy asked before, what are other states doing? They are courting new startups like Space Phoenix Systems aggressively. Senator Ferguson mentioned the growth of aerospace. As a matter of fact, aerospace has been the #1 topic mentioned today for growth in the state. We have an opportunity here to change the trajectory of how aerospace is managed and invested in Maryland. I urge the support of this bill. I urge the support of Senate Bill 867 for Maryland to make Maryland the aerospace capital it needs to be.
Excellent, Senator Beadle and fellow senators. Thank you so much for this opportunity to present in support of Senate Bill 867. I am Michael Barton, the Vice Chair of the Maryland Aerospace Alliance. We are more than 35 companies. The Alliance was founded 2 years ago. We are growing, and we are the ones that, along with Senator Washington, brought you the foundation of MATC 2 years ago. We want to say thank you so much for that foundation. And as these panelists have spoken, it's now time to take that to the next step. The Alliance, for our part, we've conducted an economic impact study of aerospace. We've hired Towson Regional Economic Impact Studies to help do that. And so the numbers that Senator Ferguson quoted to you earlier, that is from our study, 170,000 jobs, $2 billion in state and local tax revenue, $50 billion in economic impact. That's 10% of Maryland's GDP in 2024. So that's the numbers that we came up with. We have 3 times the national average of concentration of high-wage, high-skilled talent needed for advanced R&D in aerospace. We have the right tools. We are asset-rich, and we are trying to become strategy-rich as well. The MATC, as part of the law that you passed, did come up with this strategic plan, and now, since then, since that passage, we have this lighthouse sector concept. Aerospace is the only of the 3 lighthouse sectors that is not funded strategically, and so we need to fix that if we're going to make good on the governor's plan for the lighthouse sectors. And so we believe that the strategic plan that MATC has come up with is a great way forward for that. And so we would request a favorable report with amendment.
Hello, my name is Keith Cleveland. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. She's walking out. Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I am a founder of a small aerospace company in Davisonville, Maryland. I'd like to thank the opportunity to have favorable testimony for Senate Bill 867. So Maryland already helps design and build some of the most advanced space systems in the world. The opportunity now is to ensure those innovations also create companies, jobs, and economic growth here in Maryland. I started my company in Maryland because this state is home to some of the most extraordinary aerospace talent and institutions in the country. I also add the world to that. And we already mentioned Goddard and APL, so I won't belabor that. Maryland Aerospace Defense Sector supports tens of thousands of high-skilled jobs and contributes billions of dollars to the state's economy, making it one of the most significant technology sectors in the region. As a small aerospace company working in satellite mission design and space systems, we see firsthand how much talent exists across Maryland universities, federal laboratories, and private industry. Much of our work focuses on small satellite missions and the tools needed to design and simulate those systems, reflecting the growth shift in the aerospace industry towards smaller, more agile space technologies. Maryland aerospace sector has historically been anchored by federal investment, which has been talked about, which has built an extraordinary ecosystem. However, as federal priorities evolve and commercial space economy grows, states that actively support innovation will be the ones that capture the next generation of aerospace companies, as was already talked about here. Senate Bill 867 helps move Maryland in that direction by strengthening the Maryland Aerospace Technology Commission, supporting innovation across space science, space technology, and aeronautics. For this reason, I specifically urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 867. The space economy is changing quickly with new technologies, new companies, and new markets emerging. Maryland has expertise and institutions to lead in that future. The bill helps ensure that we are permission to do so. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from this panel? Seeing none, thank you all so very much. This ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 867. Senator Washington, don't go too far. Next, we're going to hear Senate Bill 869, Economic Development Maryland Workforce Launch Pilot Program Establishments. Senator Washington will present with Brad Phillips as a part of his panel. Senator, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Senator, for the record, Senator Alonzo Washington here to present on Senate Bill 869. This bill, the Maryland Workforce Launch, is a new pilot for business traction within the Department of Commerce. As a pilot, the program would partner with 1 or 2 community colleges to provide free training for employees of companies that relocate to Maryland. The Department of Commerce will partner with the community colleges to provide the training in specific growing industries. The department will also ensure that companies will be qualified business entities that provide new jobs to the state and provide good salaries. The department must also ensure that funds are repaid to the state if the company does not meet those goals. Additionally, the program will help the state to grow its private sector and to lessen our reliance on federal presence and federal employment, which I talked about earlier. By lowering the cost of entry for strategic industries, Maryland can remain a top-tier destination for high-paying jobs that our families need. Aligning this support with salary and hiring metrics ensures taxpayer dollars result in tangible economic benefit while Maryland stays competitive. The gap is that Maryland needs a strong front-end incentive that provides curriculum and instruction at no cost during the relocation negotiation phase. Senior economist Timothy Bartik from the W.E. Upjohn Institute for Employment Research stated in a 2025 report that business tax incentives are less effective at job creation than customized services for businesses, in which this bill proposes. All those borrowed tax rebates. With less money being spent on business tax incentives compared to the money spent in the pilot program, the report supports the establishment of the programs like this. With the structure in place to hold these incoming businesses accountable, Maryland will look forward to the launch of strategic economic recruitment plans. This bill builds on Maryland's competitive advantages, which are our system of higher education, workforce training, and skilled workforce. This bill adds a flexible yet targeted tool to our economic development toolbox and helps rebuild Maryland's presence as a competitive state for companies to relocate and locate. For these reasons, Mr. Chairman, I respectfully request a free report on Senate Bill 865. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Chair and members of the Finance Committee. I first want to thank Senator Washington for sponsoring this legislation. My name is Brad Phillips. I'm the Executive Director for the Maryland Association of Community Colleges, and I am here on behalf of Maryland's 16 community colleges in full support of this legislation. And this legislation to community colleges closes a critically important strategic gap in the way in which we work with business and employers. And let me unpack that. We have tremendous support to grow and sponsor and work with businesses within the state of Maryland. But when I go to meet with my national counterparts, I'm learning that they're actively recruiting businesses from other places to relocate to their state, which is something we're not doing. And specifically, the community colleges are a critical part of that. And I just want to give 3 examples. The flagship version of this is Georgia's Quick Start program. They have provided training for over 1 million workers at 6,500 projects. We're not doing that. Another one is Virginia, right next door. They have a fully customized training recruitment at no cost to qualifying firms. They recently lured Lego Group for $1 billion to train 1,700 employees. I mention Virginia specifically because it doesn't sit well with me that Nova or other community colleges are reaching out to Maryland businesses and attracting them to come get free training at their community colleges when we can do this here in Maryland. And last, but certainly not least, I want to give South Carolina as an example. I learned in my conversations that what really incentivized major corporations and manufacturers to locate there wasn't in tax incentives, it was training provided to their workforce, skills directly to fill their needs, which was referenced by Senator Washington when he quoted The Economist. So we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for this panel? Seeing none, this ends the hearing on Senate Bill 867. Senator Harris, you're next. We're going to hear Senate Bill 920, Economic Development, Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Account Management Fees, Small Business Increase Access to Capital. Joining them at the podium is this panel, Jennifer Jones, Amy Goen, and Sharon Wilder. Senator, you have as much time as you need. The other panelists, 2 minutes, and note that the buzzer is not a suggestion. Please keep your testimony short and succinct. Thank you so very much.
Awesome, appreciate that. Chair, Vice Chair, to this awesome committee. For the record, Senator Kevin M. Harris representing District 27, which includes Prince George's, Charles, and Calvert County. Here to present Senate Bill 920. The Small Business Increased Access to Capital Act. Right now, our state economy is struggling. Maryland has lost 25,000 federal jobs. Small business survival rates dropped from 19% to 12%, and our GDP grew by just 1.4%. Despite these struggles, we look ahead to building a stronger economy, and prioritizing helping small businesses is essential. One way we can do that is by making it easier for small businesses to access capital that will help them start and grow businesses. Senate Bill 920 authorized the Department of Commerce to allow fund managers to retain a management fee from small, minority, and women-owned businesses accounts of between 1.5% and 3% of each loan made under the program. In recognition of this importance of guardrails, Senate Bill 920 authorized the department to establish an annual cap any fund manager can receive in any given year from the fund management. Aside from attracting additional fund managers to help the $40 million available, these management fees will provide fund managers with the resources to market this program more boldly, increase the technical assistance available to entrepreneurs, and possibly hire dedicated small, minority, and women-owned business account lending staff, thereby increasing the access to capital for small businesses across our state. So I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report on Senate Bill 920 so that we can strengthen our economy and prepare for the future. And now I turn it over to my awesome panel.
Thank you. Good evening, I think it is, distinguished members of the Finance Committee. I'm Amy Gowan, President and CEO for Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation. And I just want to start by pointing out a really significant point that Senator Harris made. There's $40 million sitting in a fund balance in the Department of Commerce that we're not tapping into and is not getting into the hands of small businesses. Anne Arundel Economic Development Corporation, we've been a fund manager of the VLT funds since 2013. We have about $24 million in our portfolio, and we've made close to 200 loans to small women minority-owned businesses. So basically, our Volt Fund subsidizes below market rate loans for borrowers, and it serves a public policy purpose. We make low-cost financing available for businesses that can't access traditional bank financing. And I have one of our business owners right next to me. She's gonna talk about the impacts of this, but what I wanna talk about is the challenges administrating a program at a loss. We take a hit year after year administrating this program. We're lucky that the county has stepped up to help subsidize our operating costs, but funds are getting tighter and more sparse, and we need to find new ways to be able to get money flowing into our economy. So what does this bill do? It allocates a very nominal portion of that $40 million balance to be used by fund managers so that we can do business development, so that we can underwrite more loans, and so that we can market this product so that we can get it again into the hands of businesses and into our local economy. It also creates the ability to maybe attract new fund managers if they have a cost structure that works to operate this program. So with that, I want to request urge a favorable report on Senate Bill 920. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Jones, and I'm the CEO for Howard County Economic Development Authority. And I just want to also echo Amy's comments there. So this fund is it's a core part of our offerings. We service a lot of minority, women-owned, disabled-owned, veteran-owned businesses using this fund, but we can't get dollars on the street fast enough. We have a pipeline because we don't have enough admin capacity. So I totally agree that if we could hire like a part-time person, a part-time underwriter, we can get more dollars on the street for these businesses, and they could have what they need to grow. We have 2 businesses from Howard County that submitted written testimony, Champion Mulch and Brain Balance, and I also urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Sharon Wilder. Hello, members of the committee. I'm a co-founder and CEO of the Oaks Hospitality Group, which is a boutique hospitality company located right here in Maryland. We own 3 properties, the Oaks in Bethesda, the Oaks Retreat Cottage in Calvin John, and the Oaks in Annapolis, which is a historic bed and breakfast located right in the heart of downtown Annapolis. And we're set to close on our 4th location in Baltimore next week. So I know that our rapid growth over the last 5 years would not have been possible without the support of small businesses through the Volt program. And I urgently ask you to support SB 920. When my husband and I began restoring our Annapolis property, we weren't just renovating our home to delight and entertain our guests, but we were reviving a piece of Annapolis history and creating a place where people could gather, celebrate, and experience the charm of this incredible city. But restoration of historic properties like our 1830s bed and breakfast is expensive, and for many small businesses, especially women-owned and historically marginalized businesses, access to capital can be the hardest barrier to overcome. But the Volt program made it possible for us to move forward. And because of that investment, we were able to hire local architects, local contractors, and the dollars we received flowed directly back into the Annapolis community. Well, what you might not be aware of is that our properties are the only Black-owned standalone B&Bs in each of the counties in which we operate, and we built each one of them out of our own savings, retirement plans, and contributions from friends and family. Not because we wanted to risk those resources or dip into the money that we were saving for our retirement, but because traditional financing was not available to us. We lacked access, even though we had a clear vision. But programs like the Vault program do more than fund businesses. They validate that Maryland is a top place for small businesses. I urge you to support this bill.
Thank you so very much, and thank you for testifying within the constraints of the time allotted. Are there any questions for this panel? Seeing none, thank you so very much. This ends the testimony of this panel, and we have one more person, or did everyone testify? Yeah, I think so, including Sandra Pruitt, right? Did we hear from Sandra Pruitt? I'm on the wrong bill. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so we did hear from, this is Senate Bill 920. This ends the hearing and the testimony for Senate Bill 920. Next, Senator Harris will hear from you on Senate Bill 924, Department of Social and Economic Mobility. You have on your panel Gloria Dent, Carla Young, and I am going to ask Sandra Pruitt, although it's favorable with amendments, just to join us if she's available, just for the sake of time. Senator.
Appreciate that. Once again, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Senate. For the record, Senator Kevin M. Harris, representing District 27, Prince George's, Charles and Calvert County. Here to present Senate Bill 924, Business Network Access Act. Across the state, Maryland hosts over 50 Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce are a valuable resource for businesses, leaders statewide, providing access to resources and, importantly, networks. Membership connects entrepreneurs to industry trends, capital opportunities, peer collaborations, and marketing channels. And also research shows and it signals to the broader community that a business is reputable and community-minded. However, for small business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs' annual membership fees, which can exceed $500, are often prohibited. Additionally, Chamber's limited budget makes it difficult for chambers to host the inter-chamber events needed to break down local silos and build connection across communities. Each local chamber reflects the unique demographic of its community, and there is tremendous value in weaving these distinct networks together statewide. Senate Bill 924 establishes a grant program through the Department of Social and Economic Mobility with two components. The first covers 1 year of chamber membership fees for unrepresentative individuals within a given chamber community. The second funds events hosted collaboratively by 2 or more chambers, open to any participating members. A key feature of this program is its flexibility definition of underrepresented. Because of each chamber reflects the unique demographic makeup of its community, who is unrepresented, will look different across the state. Rather than imposing a statewide definition, the bill asked chambers to provide a brief justification in their application, expanding why a prospect member in their community, empowering local chambers to make that determination themselves. The Department of Social and Economic Mobility mission is to advance the social economic mobility for all Mariners, from removing barriers, invested in inclusive opportunities, and aligning state resources to support historically underserved communities and businesses. Align directly with the goals of this bill, making them a neutral fit for overseeing its implementation. By expanding access to networks and building social capital for aspiring entrepreneurs, this program creates pathways to economic opportunities for the next generation of business leaders. I respectfully request a favorable committee report on Senate Bill 924 because supporting small businesses is key to developing our state economy. Bless you, and I turn it over to my panel.
Thank you so much, Senator Harris, for inviting me here today. Thank you, Finance Committee and Vice Chair Hayes. My name is Carla Young, Vice President of Membership and Community Relations for the Greater Bethesda Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here today in strong favor of support of Senate Bill 924. Many of our members, especially small businesses led by minority, women, and veteran entrepreneurs, face significant challenges, including limited visibility and brand awareness, workforce development constraints, and barriers to deeper community integration. For these entrepreneurs, the cost of building a website, securing commercial space, and recruiting employees far often exceed the perceived cost of a chamber membership, placing them in a difficult position when allocating limited resources. Since the end of the pandemic, our chamber has proudly grown to over 640 members, with more than 1/3 representing minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, and that number continues to grow daily. Through our initiatives like our Women's Networking Group, Cultural Roundtable, and Year-Round Advocacy, we continue to elevate awareness, provide education, and support sustained success. I'd like to share a quote from valued members of a Black-owned health and wellness business in downtown Bethesda, Chris and Kristen Bell, who are also Air Force veterans and 9/11 survivors. The GBCC played a key role in helping us navigate challenging permitting requirements and secure meaningful access to funding opportunities through the Maryland Department of Commerce, end quote. We believe SB 924 will help remove financial barriers and lead to more chamber engagement, especially for underrepresented entrepreneurs, and for that reason, we urge a favorable vote. Thank you.
Yes, you may proceed, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, distinguished members of this Finance Committee and Vice Chair Hayes. Senator Harris, thank you for inviting us here today. My name is Dr. Gloria Dent. I'm a veteran and also standing here as a member representing the Maryland Commission for Women. The Maryland Commission for Women urges a favorable report on the Senate Bill 924, not only because we think the bill is going to be a powerful change to women-owned business, but because we thank you for introducing this legislation to Senator Harris, which promotes not only equity and economic opportunity, but it advanced the Maryland economic ecosystem. Senate Bill 924 fills a critical gap in the state support for women and minority-owned businesses. Our business leaders often lack access to professional networks that fuels the business growth of Maryland. The Maryland Commission for Women is committed to advancing economic mobility for women across the state through expanding access to business working networks. Senate Bill 924 does that. It established the Maryland Chamber of Commerce Grant Program, a program that will target underrepresented communities, including women, Black, Hispanic entrepreneurs, and other entrepreneur business owners that provides them a grant that subsidizes their membership. As a business owner, this was a systemic problem for me. I've been a business owner here in Maryland for over 5 years. I can tell you that on a regular basis, I made the decision to either become a member of a professional network or to decide if I had the funds to make decisions into my day-to-day activity in my business. What I do know is that by passing this bill and urging this committee urging this committee to receive a favorable report, it will help not only the networking opportunity, but provide more collaboration and inclusivity. Despite the growth of women and minority businesses across Maryland, our costs associated with participating in these businesses,
Please finish your thought and testimony. You may continue.
Yeah, by doing this, Maryland Commission for Women not only urge you to support this bill, but it will help expand access to business networks across women from Maryland, along with the Maryland Commission for Women's urge you of a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Senator Harris, for this powerful bill and testimony. Are there any questions from this panel? No, good Kappa man, always powerful. Seeing no other questions, this ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 924. Oh, are you Sandra Pruitt that didn't come to the mic when we called you? Come on. What's that?
She's on 924. She's on 924.
Oh, 924. Yes, we're here. Are you Sandra Pruitt?
Yes.
Oh, we called you earlier. Come on now.
Call me for 920.
Okay, we're ready. You about to forfeit your chance. All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Oh, it will be powerful. I have no doubt she will have powerful testimony for this committee.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Vice Chair. My name is Sandy Pruitt, and I represent a coalition of 350 minority businesses and nonprofits in Prince George's County, and also the founder of the PFC Black Chamber in Prince George's. I am here in support of Bill 924 and would like to thank Delegate Wallach and Senator Harris for introducing this bill. This bill will address a need at the grassroots level to encourage more of our smaller businesses to join chambers and access larger networks by breaking down the barrier of the cost of the memberships. This bill will also allow chambers to apply for funding to support targeted events. So I would like to I have a few amendments to the bill that I think would help. I think the bill needs to clearly define underrepresented businesses so that different people might interpret it differently. I think the bill also needs to set a limit on the number of memberships that a chamber can request, because of how when I met with Delegate Wallach, there is no limit. And I think that's going to be a challenge, because some of our larger chambers who got budgets into the 10 to 40 million, they may submit a lot of applications to join their chambers, which might lock out some of our smaller chambers in need. I also think we need to increase the amount. Right now, the initial grant funding that's being requested is $100,000. Well, there might be a lot of requests. And a good example, in last year's session, FY 2026, under the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, a $150,000 grant was awarded to the Minority Business Economic Council for a one-day MBE night event. So now you're saying that 50 chambers need to compete for only $100,000 worth of funding. I just think as an initial amount, the requests are going to go out quickly. So those are my amendments that I would like to have in the bill.
I told you she would live up to the bill. Powerful testimony. Thank you all so very much. Are there any questions of this panel? Seeing none, thank you so very much. This ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 924. Next, we'll hear Senate Bill 816, West North Avenue Development Authority. We're going to have George Reef present, followed by Chad Williams, Alexandria Adams, and Ms. John Drake Jennings. And you all may start when ready.
Good afternoon. My name is George Reith, Legislative Director to Senator Antonio Hayes, here in support of Senate Bill 816. I would like to turn testimony over to Chad Williams, the Executive Director of WNADA.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. For the record, Chad Williams, Executive Director of the State of Maryland's West North Avenue Development Authority. And it looked like we're going to do a relay, so I'm going to pass it over to our senior policy analyst, Christy Turner, who actually worked on this bill.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Hayes. For the record, my name is Christy Turner. I am the Senior Policy Analyst for the West North Avenue Development Authority. And today we're here to testify in support of SB 816, which is to establish the West North Avenue Social Connection and Neighborhood Development Program, which broadens what we want to look at as neighborhood development. So our agency was created through legislation in 2021 to focus on housing, economic development, transportation, and green space. And our neighborhood development portfolio isn't really as clearly defined as some of those other activities. So what this bill seeks to do is strictly define those to support operational support for neighborhood or community-based organizations, community outreach, and other technical assistance associated with these organizations and their needs. This comes from us interacting with the community over the last 3.5 years or so and really figuring out what their needs are. They participated with us on a focus group, and we worked through this together. But essentially, as we're revitalizing buildings, we want to also consider how we can strengthen social connection and social cohesion. So by further supporting these organizations with the funds allotted to us, this is what we seek to do through this program. Thank you. And I urge for a favorable report on SB 816. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from this panel? Seeing none, thank you so very much. Now, Bryson Papa must have been in the wrong ballpark. I don't think he meant to sign up. Did you know Bryson? I don't see him.
They
He must
signed up for
not
the wrong
meant to
bill.
sign up on this bill. Are there any other people that wish to? Are you going to testify?
No, sir. We want to be considerate of the committee's time.
We appreciate
I'm
that.
experienced in these matters now.
This ends the bill hearing on Senate Bill 816 and our bill hearings for today. Colleagues, please give us a brief minute as the committees and our staff and our chair returns so we could go into our voting session. Thank you so very much.